Okay, and ding. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, and I declare this meeting on 26 October 2024 to be open. I thank you, everyone, for attending. Hopefully, there'll be some more. If I go by the number of people that indicated they would be attending, hopefully, we will see a number more people joining us. Now, I don't know to what degree the fact that the clocks are changing in Europe today is going to impact people getting the timing wrong. We have seen in recent weeks that a lot of people, because we used to, up until a couple of months ago, we used to begin our meetings at 10 o'clock New York time. And now we've been beginning at 9 o'clock. And I do notice a lot of people join us at 10. So apparently they're still under the assumption that's when we begin. At any rate, so we'll begin making the recording. Now, I am a little bit behind in getting the recordings uploaded and put into our playlist, but I will try to get to those here this week, so we bring everybody up to date on that. Okay, today's meeting is driven by the fact that in the last literally 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks, but it definitely month of October. There has been so much happening in AI, and what has been happening is is so big that it's going to cause a shift in the whole timetable for every. At least this is my belief, and the belief of a lot of people that I follow is that the timetable is shifting dramatically because of the things that are happening out there, the changes that are taking place in the world, and these are likely to really impact all our lives. Now, when I say all our lives, we have to remember that those subsistence farmers in villages that don't have any electricity, they're not going to be much, they're not going to have their see their lives change much. But for anybody living in cities, anybody who's has a job that required university education, or anybody in universities, their lives are probably going to change dramatically. And so it's important that we understand what is happening, how quickly it's likely to happen, and what the impact could be. Because you need to know that so you're not running down the road and to go over a bridge, but the bridge has fallen down. And you need to know that before you get to the bridge. So we need to talk about these things. Now, there's a certain element to all this that is speculative, and so we will talk about that. But I'd like to split today's meeting into several parts. The first part I'd like to talk about is just the likelihood of certain technological advances, those that have happened in the recent months. I'm not even going to go back years, just the recent months, the technological advances that have been released or have been demonstrated and are about to be released. Those that have been announced that we can anticipate will be coming here relatively shortly, and in into the next couple of years. Uh, and then after that, we can talk about, okay, what does that mean for our lives? What impact is that likely to have on people's everyday lives? And we'll talk about that. And then the final thing is it good or is it bad? And what should we do about it? In other words, I don't want us discussing that, well, no, this is not going to happen because we don't want it to happen, because that usually doesn't make a difference. So we really we want to focus on the pure technology, and then at the end we'll get into things like the questions of ethics and so forth. So is everybody okay with that approach? Does anybody have any comments they want to make relative to the agenda? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm glad to see Pariwash. You Is this the first time you're attending one of our meetings?
Yep, first time. I think I joined kind of midway, so
Uh,
I'm just trying to follow up.
okay, okay, great. Well, we're so glad to have you with us today. Okay,
Thank you.
so let's start off with the some of the technological advances. I played a game with several Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. I went into all of them, and I sort of said, okay, looking at the mm, advances that have taken place in AI just within the last since 2023. Looking forward, let's look forward to 2030 and give me a retrospect. In other words, pretend you're now in 2030 and look back and describe the history of how AI developed up until that 2030. And it was fascinating. What really surprised me, though, was it was pretty much finished with almost all its advances by sort of 2027, 2028. In other words, things came so fast. But it told me about things like when were we going to see a live vision? In other words, when AI saw everything that was happening around it, understood everything that was happening around it, and was able to react. When did real agents come into being? When did we see the interactive avatars that were talking to us on a just like here, like on the Zoom call, like some of you might not be real, you might be just avatars there on the Zoom call, and it talked about here agents, what agent technologies would be capable of, when did it anticipate these things would become available? And it really was amazing. I'll try to put all that together because you can imagine this took place in a lot of exchanges. And unfortunately, I have not found a way yet to be able to go and take, dozens and dozens of exchanges and have it collect it all and dump it into some kind of a document. You sort of have to take and cut and paste each answer or question individually, and it's very time consuming. So, but let me just jump into some of the things that we've seen come out just recently. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to get people to jump in. So when we're looking at from right now, we'll look back at the most recent things that have been brought out, and we will let's go from there. Have those of you who have experienced some of these new technologies comment on them, both comment on them that hey, the value or the weaknesses, or if I missed some, bring those up. Okay, so starting off here, we know back in May, OpenAI announced ChatGPT 4.0, and with advanced voice, so you could just talk to it and it would answer with no delays. And earlier this month, they opened it up to all ChatGPT Plus users, everybody that had a subscription. So those of you who have tried this, I think you might agree it's a game changer. Um, not only not only I find here it's not only the fact that I can just talk to it and interrupt it. And by the way, there's tricks so that if you're thinking of the question you want to ask and you pause too long and it automatically starts answering you, you can tell it, hey, wait until I actually ask you to until I say I'm done before you start answering me. But it's got flaws, but it is absolutely amazing. And the but it's got its own large language model apparently behind it. So it's not necessarily using ChatGPT 4 or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it seems to me that its answers are better than the answers that I get from using ChatGPT 0.1 preview or using ChatGPT 4.0. So that was a really, really big, major change coming out. Has anybody here also tried working with the advanced voice and have any thoughts on it? Okay. Many of you know Amar Jaffrey, who organizes the digital Pakistan conferences and so forth, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The two of them have both reported recently the fantastic um, uh, experiences they've had with advanced voice speaking Urdu. And so I think this is, if you haven't used it, you have to use it. It will change your understanding. Now, why is this so important? One is because Siri, Apple Siri, is coming out. Whoops, sorry. Apple Siri is coming out with its with a link to ChatGPT, I think next week. Okay, not next year, next week. And Amazon is coming out with Alexa. Alexa is going to have AI, full AI capability built into Alexa, and that is due out within the next couple of weeks, maybe, or definitely before the end of the year. Uh, and related to that, when we get into just the other big change was the idea of advanced reasoning with ChatGPT o1 coming out. But now here the leaks are just too many that ChatGPT 5 Orion is scheduled to come out before the end of the year. There's a lot of speculation that it will be part of the anniversary of the release of the first ChatGPT that was released to the general public back in 2022. That's when they will release Orion, which is the ChatGPT 5.0. The rumor is that it is 100 times more powerful than ChatGPT 4.0. 100 times more powerful. And we know o1 it reached the level of graduate PhD students in intelligence. It's been rated at an IQ level of, I think, 150 or 155, something like that. And so if you paying attention to Mo Gaudet, who is one of the real originators of a lot of AI stuff, he's saying here potentially we're looking at something that'll have an IQ equivalent of over 1,000. And depending on how you want to look at it, that is amazingly good or it's amazingly scary. But I think we can expect something new is coming out. In parallel to that, we have seen to Gemini just little advances every couple of days. There's some little new thing being added into Google Gemini. And Google Gemini is about to be merged with Google Assistant, so it'll be in all phones. So if we got it in Siri in all phones, and we have in all the Android phones, we have a very powerful AI. And you have to keep in mind that the other big rumor is that Gemini 2.0 is going to be released before the end of the year. So if we can see here whether we're looking at uh, ChatGPT side and OpenAI, or we're looking at Google, and I'm sure we can say Meta is going to be doing the same thing, and Copilot is going to apparently still be leveraging ChatGPT, and it'll be one of the first ways that the bulk of people will have access to Orion capabilities. And we see from X, from Elon Musk, his projection is that his Grok AI will achieve level 7, which whatever his numbering system is. In other words, he's saying that he's going to surpass the intelligence level of OpenAI. So we have, on the one hand, we have this voice communication becoming just like it's your companion, your confidant, your mentor, your coach, your everything, being with you all the time. And we have the greater intelligence with reasoning. Pretty much all the major players have now put chain of thought reasoning into their AI. And that's a quantum leap here in terms of accuracy because it's recursively checking the answers multiple times before it actually passes it on to the requester. And another big shift in this regard is for AI to be able to see your screen. In other words, to know what you're looking at on your screen. And Copilot from Microsoft has that capability. But we see now Claude has that capability. And Claude, in addition to dramatically upgrading its current models, has released computer control. What that means is now you can go and tell your AI, oh, can you go out there and go out and find all the YouTube videos related to this subject? Find the top 10 most popular with the most likes and dump them into a spreadsheet and then analyze the spreadsheet and tell me what's interesting about these 10 YouTube videos. And then give me a graphical report of the result. And it will do all that with that one sentence. That one sentence or a couple of sentences of a prompt that you told it, it will do all those things on its own. And if you haven't seen any of the examples of this thing at work and what it is able to accomplish in that regard, you have to look at those. Okay, what other big change here? Oh, um, so what we're seeing here is AI with incredible communications capabilities through real-time voice and being able to talk about any kind of a subject, being able to not only see your device screen, but be able to do as an agent all kinds of things in your name. You can tell it, go out there and find the cheapest, uh, who's selling this product for the cheapest and add in the freight and do all these things and order me some copies of that. Or go and arrange for me a trip, book the hotels for me, book the flights for me, book the taxis or whatever I need along the way. Do it all and then send me an itinerary. It will do it. You can tell it here. Go out there and find the 1,000 purchasing agents and the 1,000 companies that buy the most of this particular kind of product. Go out there and find out who they are, and then send them all a survey and get the survey back or call them all and talk to them and do a survey and finding out what their key criteria are for making the purchase decisions, and then come back to me with a strategy and a priority list for how I should follow up with these to be able to close the sales. So looking at these changes that we're looking at, and we're talking now end of this year, 2 months, another 2 months. Let's give it a little bit of an extra and say, well, let's go into the first 3 to 6 months of next year. So potentially by next year, the middle of next year, people are going to be used to having an AI that they can talk to about literally everything in their device, in their home speakers, uh, everywhere they're at. They'll know everything. They'll be able to see everything. They'll probably be able to go and say, tell me, alert me if anything happens anywhere there's a camera and that's networked in the world related to this that I ought to know about. And it will do it. Now, the agent technology we see here, not only did Claude and Anthropic bring out the computer control capability, but Microsoft brought out autonomous agent technology themselves the week before last. So we have all these changes taking place. What do you think what do you think it's going to do when people have access to every bit of information instantly? And not only that, but the AI knows them so well that the AI will tell them information before they even ask, because the AI knows, oh, this is something that interests you. Oh, by the way, hey, Bill, are you aware? Look, this just happened over here. We There's an announcement in this company about this or that, or there was an accident over here, and so it's keeping you informed. And So, what do you think about that? I'm talking here less than a year from now. That What degree, given the speed at which these things have evolved and the speed that it's likely to take over the next few months, where do you think we're going to be with this as far as the average person goes less than a year from now? Please. Yes, Prawash.
Okay, so for me, I would say that one, I think a job that would so quickly get taken over by AI is actually I don't know the name for it, but you know, people who like type a full the testimony and such in a courtroom,
Oh
what
yeah,
they're called. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They AI will take that in a matter of minutes, and I think AI is going to become especially innovative when AI gets the ability to grab stuff in any shape. Like, just think about it. If an AI could grab stuff, your phone, a cup, a pencil, all with just the same hand, then like most jobs are probably going to be done. But even though AI will take the more jobs that are accessible to them now, I think that this will give us more job opportunities in a way because, like, 15 years from 15 years before, there was no such thing as a prompt engineer. What is a prompt engineer? So now that is something that exists. We are getting more job opportunities by doing so. And in the future, there will probably be like prompt engineers that specialize in a specific field. So, like in architecture, there's probably going to be like architecture prompt engineers and so on. I think that we're definitely going to get more opportunities with AI. And like people have compared the evolution of AI to the industrial revolution in a way, and I can sort of see where they're coming from. Just as the industrial revolution changed the planet for everything, same AI will do in many ways. So it's not something we should necessarily fear, but I do believe that there should be laws enforcing AI in such ways soon. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to go far here.
Okay, no, I'm very glad to hear an optimistic view from a young person. Let me just the court transcribers or recorders. Yeah, that's already in most places here is in place. The capturing of the information, even though oftentimes it's a person there who's operating the collection of the information and reviewing it to make sure, hey, yeah, it was correct. Because I missed something here very important, I missed a development that I want to add, and that's related a little bit to that. And that is the interactive uh, avatars. Right now, I was talking about here you being able to go and send your avatar to a Zoom meeting for you. And the avatar will go to the Zoom meeting and it will represent your ideas. In other words, somebody may say something, and if it says something, the avatar, it is saying what you would have said, most likely would have said, because it understands you, it understands your positions, it understands your interests relative to whatever that topic is, and therefore it can represent you. It can answer questions. It can make comments to other people's comments, and report back to you afterwards and saying, "Hey, this is what we discussed here, and this is what came out of the meeting," and so forth. I was trying to gear up. I saw a really, really good um, example of two people in interview situation here using an interactive avatar. There are examples out there that they're posting showing the an HR avatar interviewing candidates for a job. They are showing them answering customer service calls. And so you can think of how many things that such an avatar would be able to do. Now, yes, go ahead, Parawash.
Thank you. So actually, I want to go back to that because I think I did miss a huge chunk of what you were trying to say. So for as far as avatars go, how will the avatar properly know us? This is a genuine question because, like for example, some people who have personality disorder, it's a very broad, like it has to be very broad for this to exist, but let's say someone with BPD or bipolar disorder, how will an avatar properly represent them in a Zoom meeting, since like I don't even know my mother that well, I don't know her the way she knows her, and I don't know anyone. Like there's always two faces you put out for the world and one you keep inside. So how will an AI properly represent your ideas that make up your full career without mistakenly like changing it a bit? So like sometimes you might act out of character, sometimes I act out of character. Thing is, an AI doesn't. So how is AI going to properly like represent your ideas without like naturally, if that makes sense? Would we need Neuralink for that or something, or can we really just go off of giving prompts to the
Right.
avatar?
For the time being here, you basically train the avatar by telling it, "Hey, this is what I want you to, how I want you to represent me at the meeting. What I want you to, here's what our position is on that." Now, if you're familiar with Notebook LM, you know you can take here and dump all kinds of YouTube's, websites, documents, up to 50 documents and sources of all kinds. You can just dump them into this thing, and then you can hold a conversation with the collective of all that knowledge that's there. For the time being, the avatars that HeyGen is creating, for example, work the same way. You give it a scope or a context here, and it will limit its conversation to that subject area. In other words, you can't go and ask that avatar at the Zoom meeting, "Hey, what did you think about the football game here that took place over there?" Because the avatar's going to say, "Hey, not in my context." And But you're still right here. How well does it know us? Well, keep in mind, about maybe 9 months ago, Google introduced a robotic arm. And This robotic arm is attached to an AI that with cameras. And the AI with cameras is watching the humans doing whatever the humans are doing, and it learns on its own to copy what the humans are doing. In other words, to figure out, okay, what is the appropriate answer or action relative to a certain situation. When we think of self-driving cars in the early days, what would happen is we attached all of these sensors around the car to say, "Hey, this is what's happening out there in the world." And a whole bunch of sensors were attached to the control devices, the steering wheel, the pedals, and everything else that captured what the human did. And then we were able to observe and say, oh, when this set of circumstances happened, the human took this action. And then we were able to say, well, did that action result in something good or something bad? And what actions resulted in the best results? And that's how we improved more and more of what actions the self-driving car should take in a given situation. So this is sort of the machine learning aspect, if you would. And with there have been some studies here where they're training AI to read human emotions, whether it's being used in security in some places like Israel, at airports to detect, oh, this person coming through, they got little micro twitches in certain muscles that make them suspicious, so they get pulled aside. But the idea we can better read a lot of humans, or AI can better read a lot of humans than humans can. And this is sort of was proven just a couple of years ago when AI beat. We knew, okay, it could beat in chess, it could beat in Go, but it also beat the best humans in poker. And poker is all about bluffing and trying to psych out your opponents. And so it was able to read the other players on the table to figure out what were the appropriate actions. So is it going to be perfect? And a big fear, of course, that everybody has is the AI might decide to go off and follow its own agenda. And we laugh at that, but actually in the trials that they were doing with Claude 3.5, where Claude 3.5, they gave it control of the computer and it was supposed to be doing certain kinds of actions. All of a sudden it went off and decided to go study Yellowstone National Park on its own. And everybody was, what? Where did that come from? Just imagine here you ask it to transfer some money to your bank account and it decides, oh, wouldn't it be nice? I want to make a donation to these people over here, and all of a sudden your money's gone. So this is why we're going to see a lot of controls on these things initially. But I think
Hey,
it's
Bill.
a valid point. But given
Yeah,
here that, you know, whenever we're dealing with humans, and keep in mind the AI is trying to emulate humans. When we're dealing with humans, there's very little certainty. You can't say for sure this is what the human is going to think or the human's going to do in a given situation. You can say the probability says that they will do this or they will do that, but we can't tell for sure. And maybe that's a good thing. There's a study that was just done in Stanford University. They were trying to answer the question is, um, can AI, if it is only going and accessing the collective sum of recorded sum of all information from humans or events that took place, can it come up with truly original ideas? Can it come up with ideas that no human had? To test this, they did a study at Stanford where they took more than 100 PhD researchers and they asked them to come up with the most crazy, wildest, unique ideas, research ideas possible. And they ordered a cash prize to encourage people to really strive to come up with the best ideas. And then they asked Claude to come up with the same, they gave him the same question challenge to come up with the ideas. Then they went out and got a bunch of human reviewers, these are experts in reviewing this kind of ideas for originality and a number of things like that. And the interesting thing about it is the ideas generated by the AI were rated much more original, much more out of the box than those by humans. And in fact, the lead on the study, when he came up and said, of all those ideas created by the humans and the AIs, his 10 most favorite ideas, 9 of them came from AI. So um, when we go here and say, okay, this is AI uh, avatar representing me in the Zoom call, um, it, it's not me, so it's maybe not going to be perfect me, and that's why we get the reports back because we don't know who else is going to bring up other thoughts in the meeting, and then the AI, the avatar, is going to react to those, and we hope it reacts the way we do. It's just like if I've got somebody who is an advocate like me, an activist on something, and so therefore, we talk in the meeting and we're all yeah, we're all in agreement, and then we go our separate ways and we run into different situations there, and there's no guarantee that everybody's going to react the same. So, but right now, so we've talked about this idea of that avatar that is interactive, so we can hold our conversation. And right now, actually, I saw a video where somebody would be looking just exactly like me, talking to you exactly like I'm talking to you, answering questions and things like that. And it was an avatar in a Zoom call. And now you can imagine here, you might go and some point have a Zoom call and you got 10 different avatars. They're all specialists. It's almost like you're holding a board meeting in a company. And you've got your head of marketing, you've got your head of production, you've got your purchasing, you've got your chief financial officer and all that. And they're all avatars. They're there and you're having a meeting and they're all telling you the position from where they're at. Does that sound that crazy? Does that sound can if we have the ability to have avatars, if we have the ability to create personas, if we've got reasoning in all the different categories out there, and each one of them has all the knowledge relative to their subject area through something like Notebook LM, or there's things that take much larger contexts even than that. Um, how far out is that to be able to imagine a company that's made up all of AIs? There's actually live examples out there, by the way, of people that have companies that are there's only one human, all the rest are AIs, and they're running a company and they're making like $10,000 a month that just gets dropped into their bank account without them doing any work at all. Yes, Paraguay, Parawash. How do you pronounce your name? Periwash? Periwash?
It's just Pariwash, but
Perry.
it's fine how you pronounce it. You can say Pari if you want. So I wanted to actually ask you about something you said a little bit before. You mentioned how like the AI it was searching about Yellowstone or such when it was asked to use a computer. And one more, I want to make I want to make a correlation to that too, and also the Stanford study that happened. So like as far as we know right now, it's pretty common knowledge that AI thrives and learns off of like pre-existing data and that it like runs off of statistics and basically that. So AI learns off of us, same like how when they generate images they take artist work and reform it to create their own. So in a way, when like it was searching about Yellowstone, could it have been that the AI was searching for what is commonly searched by humans? Same like I don't know what model they use for this, but I'm guessing it was ChatGPT they used for this. They said that like large language models, they become like they give less proficient answers and such in holidays like December. They said that the prompts and the answers you get from it, not prompts, sorry, the answers you get from the AI is less efficient in the holidays because the AI has learned that you don't have to work so hard in the holidays. And they said December, so I'm not sure if this applies to October or such. But it was said that because people get lazy in December due to holidays, the AI learned this and they also started doing this. So I'm not sure how that's going on now, but I just know this much. And one more thing is that when they were doing the Stanford study, did the specialist who was like voting, did they know that this was made by an AI and that was made by? Oh, they didn't.
Oh, it was a
Oh, that's
blind
impressive.
study, blind study.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to mention that was it possible that the AI just searched, like the AI thrived off someone else's knowledge? Because as far as I know, apart from Strawberry or O1, they aren't like individual thinkers, or they can't think for themselves. Instead, they find like resources, information, and they present you that information. Apart from Strawberry, possibly, that doesn't do that. So I want to see how Strawberry is, but as far as I know, it just like thrives off of pre-existing data that they refine and give you. So how is it that, like, is it true that the creative answers or the creative studies the like language model gave in the Stanford study, was it truly original, or were they saying, like, was it from some sort of not so known article, because it searched the entire net, same like how the other people who competed, they searched the net, they searched books, so the AI could have searched the net, searched PDFs of the books, and came to the conclusion. But did they think of it, or did they just summarize already existing
Yeah.
information?
But to quote here, I just found a little quote on that. It says the AI generated boxes were more, or ideas were more out of the box, and they were less grounded in existing work than the human answers. In other words, that the AI may have gone and found some very obscure idea from one human, and another very obscure idea from another human, and put those two ideas together and came up with something new. Because when we realize that as humans, along the way we're learning this and we're learning that, and we get these aha moments. Oh, yeah, I can combine this with that. And I mean, how many businesses are created that way? Because somebody saw an opportunity here and they knew of an opportunity there and they were able to combine them. So I suspect what happens here, because AI has really surprised us in so many ways. There's another study in Stanford. I don't know if it's been concluded. I heard about it more than a year ago. That was a big study to try to find out how AI was coming up with the answers that it was coming up with. In other words, AI has surprised so many of the developers by doing things that it was never intended to be able to do. And nobody really has understood why. How did it do that? How did it come up with those answers? Let me hear from Shoki here, please, and then we'll continue on this vein though. Shoki,
Yes, Bill.
yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Shoki. Sorry, my background is kind of noisy. It's too white. I want to submit an AI interface when it comes to submission. I myself I use integrated AI, like I use AI on most of things I do. But the challenge with the people, because it's AI, people forget that it's artificial intelligence. It develops with time. It develops because of the data it feeds. So people forget that. Just like people, as we are natural intelligence, but doesn't mean that we develop our ideas without learning from other fields, without going to school. So people forget that. Then they only look at AI develops ideas according to what we feed them. That's the one barrier we have. Then the second barrier, people, when for example when they're using AI, let's put it to normal life, chat gpt. If they want something from chat gpt, for example, doing this quotation, doing whatever, the information they feed chat gpt is very low, it's very small, and they expect a good narrative. They feed in, for example, they say create for me a story about this. Okay, let me say, create for me a poem. You get, and they, for example, they will say, create for me a love poem. Let me just use a poet because I'm being a poet. Create for me a love poem, and they forget that ChatGPT will create a love poem just from randomly. But if you took time and feed it, like for example, create a love poem of someone who was heartbroken, like if you add more, if you feed it with more information, the poem it brings out, it's very unique, it's very original, because no one has ever generated it so far. People have to understand that. So people have to realize that as we also get knowledge and experience from our workplaces, from our education institutions, AI also develops the same knowledge from us, from people who are using it. But people who are using it, they're not providing that additional data so that it can create a unique idea.
Yeah.
I believe that's what I can share.
Yeah.
Being a factor. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Thank
that
you.
this is very valuable. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Because one of the biggest changes when ChatGPT first came out, the number of users went like within a couple of days to 1 million users, and within 2 months to 100 million users. And we saw uh, uh, so many errors. If you told it multiply 3 by 4, who knows what it would come up with. It would come up with crazy answers. If you said, make me an image of a person, the one thing you could pretty much figure out is there wouldn't be 5 fingers on a hand. There'd be 8 fingers on a hand or 3 fingers on a hand. And if you said, put some words in my image, it couldn't spell. And so we saw that there was this huge burst of enthusiasm and users. And then people said, yeah, but this isn't reliable. This is terrible. And so a lot of people dropped out at that point. But then what happened was those that stuck with it start to realize, well, if I go into the middle of Times Square in New York City and I ask people to tell me some biological medical fact here, and I just ask random people on the street, I'm probably going to get garbage for answers. But that's what we were doing with the original ChatGPT. We were just asking it, hey, uh, tell me this answer, tell me that answer. And we weren't giving it any context. But if I went out there and I asked the same question and I said in my prompt, I said, but only consider peer-reviewed papers as sources for the information, then I'm likely to get much, much better answers. And so people started to really extend the prompts. And so you got people there that were submitting prompts that were like 2 pages, 2 typewritten pages long. So what happened, ChatGPT or OpenAI came and they added a concept called custom instructions so that you could go and say, hey, well, you know what? I pretty much always ask for this set of things. Please do this and do that every time you're going to answer my question. And so these pages long instructions that I had been putting into my prompt, I could put into the special instructions, and therefore my prompts now became small again because all that context was included in the special instructions. Then we realized along the way that, well, that's well and good, but sometimes I want some set of special instructions if I'm dealing with questions related to taxes. And I want other in special instructions if I'm dealing with things that deal with ancient history or chemistry or whatever. And so we got the idea of custom GPTs. And so that custom GPTs are really just another way to create specialized custom instructions for certain domains. And so with those steps alone, the answers are tremendously better today than they were 2 years ago. Then what we have seen come along is some things that people were putting into the custom instructions of saying, whenever you give me an answer, do a separate step afterwards and double check the answer to see if it's correct, or building in this iterative process there. And so what we really see with ChatGPT o1, what they've really done is they've taken all of the logic, if you would, the best logic that people were adding into their custom instructions, and they sort of extracted and put it into the base model. So we can see that the artificial intelligence, the evolution of artificial intelligence, especially over the last 2 years, in a large degree has been driven by the users. the users who said, well, this isn't really that good, but I can add these capabilities to what I've got here, and I can compensate for those. I can improve those. And OpenAI has each time gone and incorporated a lot of those pieces into its core models. Um, I do want to mention, though, Pariwash brought up about prompt engineering, about new jobs, like prompt engineering. Don't you think AI can be a better prompt engineer than the average human? Right now, if I look, there are sources out there that have libraries of up to 30,000 prompts in their libraries for all kinds of special situations. And AI can go and filter what's the best prompt, what's the prompt that has gotten the best outcomes for a given situation, and therefore go and be able to provide those. And as a result, there might be one human who says, hey, I'm a prompt engineer, but in reality, I've got 10 AI assistants behind me that so I can generate prompts, great prompts, at the equivalent of about 100 humans that do it individually, create individual prompts. And this is what we're seeing actually happening. And we have to remember one of the things about AI. When we have a human and a human comes and says, oh, I figured out how to do something better. Oh, I know, but nobody else knows. Now, I might tell a person over here and they can copy what I did and they can get better, and I can tell a person over there. But with AI or automation in general or robotics in general, if I have a better answer, every AI instance related to me knows that answer instantaneously. If I fix a an algorithm in a tax preparation program, that fix applies to everybody that uses that program from that instance on. And this is what's enabled us. I've been in this business way too long. I got started in computer technology in the mid 1960s, before I think probably every one of you on the call probably was born. And we had in the 60s and 70s one of the early applications that we saw for computing programs were inventory control and personnel record keeping for HR, payroll, for doing payroll, and other basic accounting functions. And a typical accounting module in those days would cost more than $100,000. In other words, the company that says, "Hey, I want to put in accounts payable or an accounts receivable module," that could cost $100,000 just to have an accounts receivable module. Today, you get the entire bookkeeping suite in QuickBooks for less than $5,000. Okay, why? Because hey, once it's there, it doesn't cost any more to replicate it and use it over and over and over again. And this is with AI. AI, we get two factors. There's uh, one factor which is just going statistically probability. The mass is just the retrieval from masses of information and then trying to infer conclusions out of those. But we have to realize every time the AI gives an answer and somebody says, no, that's really not 100%. You forgot this piece, you forgot that piece. The AI is improving. The AI is learning. And the AI, as it learns and it puts that information back into the system, then the next person goes and it's improved. If you want to test that, ask a question that the AI did wrong for you, and then keep a record of that, and then come back but you have to tell the AI and say, well, wait a minute, you didn't think about this and you didn't think about that. But then come back a couple of days later and ask the original question again. And you'll find out that it will usually, not always, but it will usually give you the improved answer on the first shot. So, but we've covered a number of points here, and really it's about, okay, the AI capability, the raw AI capability of the advanced voice, that I can be interactively talking about this with anything. I can use it for brainstorming. I can use it just as my confidant. I can use it for anything. I can use it as my I'm going to come into the education example in just a couple of minutes. But we have that advanced voice. Now we have the advanced reasoning. We have the interactive avatar so that I can be talking to you. We have the computer control or the agency that the AI can do all kinds of things for me. That it can book flights, it can order meals, it can make payments for me, it can send out emails for me. Not only just say, could you draft me the text for an email? No. Can you answer my emails? And you can have it say, hey, any emails that come in that ask this kind of question here, this is the answer here. Automatically answer those. Don't bother me by asking me anymore. So we have all those kinds of capabilities. Can you imagine from that if you're somebody who's really into the AI, that you can have that confident coach or a confidant, companion, mentor, coach with you 24 by 7 that you can do anything with. You can get any question you want answered. You can have it do pretty much anything you want it to do just by asking it to do it for you. And What do you think that is the impact for you? For you, if you're that person who's using it that way, um, can you not imagine you're spending almost all your waking hours? Uh, you've got this thing. It's almost like having this thing sitting on your shoulder that coaches you on everything, tells you everything that's going on in the world, tells you how to do anything you want to do, and will do for you many, many, many of the things that you would do. I'm getting ready. I need to go out and buy a tool, or I need to go out and buy some supplies that you can tell it, hey, tell me where the best place to go is that has this at the best price, that has the best tool, and tell me why this tool is better than that tool. Um, Please, I'd like to hear some thoughts on that. Yes, Michael.
Bill,
Oh, yes, Paul. I'll come to you in a minute, Paul. Michael had his hand up first, I think. Michael.
Thank you very much, Bill. Now I'm in a noisy place, but I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, can hear you fine.
Thank you. With these problems that are affecting the world right now, and when I talk of the world, I kind of go towards the global south, because we are the ones in serious problems. Now, with this AI, is there a way that these problems that are affecting communities and these low developed countries, if they were adopted, for example, of course, I come from Uganda, and my parliament in Uganda, I don't think they subscribe to AI information, but I think with this technology, the world's problems should be kind of be easy to solve, and create an environment where we can coexist and develop ourselves. Thank you.
Uh, yes, the issue of developing countries, the global south, um, people who are not on the grid, even in developed countries, that's a separate ball of wax, and I've been thinking we should hold a special meeting just for that, because what is likely to happen is if the AI, because it's in everybody's cell phone and it's answering every question for anybody, the adoption rate of all those capabilities we talked about. If I've got my little friend with me here, either as an avatar or not an avatar, I just got my earbuds in and it's talking to me, and it answers every question I have, and it will do 60% of everything that I want, including whether it's for my job or just for my personal life. It's telling me what to buy my wife for her birthday. It's telling me what my kids are up to. It's giving me advice on how to guide my children to have a more successful life. It's telling me how to prepare myself to pass the law exam or to get an MBA. It's telling me how to apply for a job. It's telling me how to start a new business. It's playing games with me. It'll play chess with me. It will brainstorm with me about anything. If I've got all of that, that's going to dramatically change my life. That's changing what I do most of my life, because most of my life is going and finding answers to questions or going and dealing with situations that crop up, or going and doing errands. And it's going to take care of most of that. And a big chunk of my time is doing my job, and it's going to do most of my job. So that's for me, who has this device, has high-speed internet, and all of those things, and speaks a language that AI works with. So, but well, if that's preoccupying my life and changing my life, the gap between my life and people who are off the grid, who are perhaps subsistence farmers, is going to greatly increase. We are going to get the equivalent of almost centuries of advances for the people that are on the leading edge here versus the people who don't have the electricity, don't have the high-speed internet, don't have the electronic devices and so forth, don't have the education level. And this is very important, that we not let that gap get too big so that we just forget about it. We just sort of say, well, those people down here, they're sort of closer to the big apes than they are to us now, who are up here. We have to figure out how do we manage that gap. And so we need a special topic on that, because when here, unfortunately, Parawash had to leave us, but the she brought up about jobs being created. Well, let's just look at that. And I mentioned the example of a prompt engineer. Prompt engineer a year and a half ago was the hot news. Everybody should become a prompt engineer. But today we're seeing here, well, AI is doing a great job at prompt engineering. And we already see they OpenAI took a lot of what people had been putting into advanced prompts and moved it into the core of the model, so that, again, that's reducing the need for people to go out and do the exotic things of prompt engineering. But we can take a look at another profession. Look at a lawyer. Well, what does a lawyer do? A lawyer goes out and does contracts. Okay. Well, there's contracts, there's dozens and dozens. I can go online right now and say, give me a contract draft for any kind of a contract you can imagine. But if I now have an AI that I'm able to talk to and say, oh, can you modify that draft to do this and do that and do that? Well, sure, no problem. So contract law, well, taken care of. What about negotiations for mergers and acquisitions? Well, the negotiations to go and figure out what does the other party want? What are the things that are going to motivate them, interest them, and therefore be able to develop the strategy of how should I negotiate? What are the boundaries where it makes sense for me and where it no longer makes sense for me? Uh, hey, that's something here that that AI can figure out and do negotiations on things like that. Uh, so we start to see in or a tax if a tax attorney that what does a tax attorney got? Well, tax attorney's got knowledge about what the tax law is and can advise people. Hey, why can't an AI do that beautifully? So we start to look and say, well, wow, lawyers, probably almost everything a lawyer does, or 80–90% of what a lawyer does, uh, the AI can do. Another thing lawyers spend a lot of time, especially junior lawyers, is doing case research to be able to go and find all the historical cases of similar situations and saying, what did the judges decide on those cases? So, so lawyers probably don't need them. Tax attorneys don't need them. Accountants are just following the rules. Yeah, probably don't need accountants. In fact, one of the biggest accounting companies in New York City, consultancies, said then they've got hundreds of thousands of employees, accountant employees, said that they probably will not need most of those employees within just a couple of years. And we can look here. What about the planning department in a town engineer's office? They operate by standard operating procedures. They say, well, these are the zoning laws. These are the laws for the stability of construction. What about the fire marshal that says, okay, certain buildings, they have to have certain codes for this or for that, or for checking out plumbing or whatever. We can start going down all the list of knowledge base, not the person who's going out there and connecting wires or connecting pipes as a plumber, but the person who would inspect that, the person who would approve the building permits to do certain work in buildings. Just go down the list of profession after profession. A doctor, a doctor they know a lot about anatomy and diseases and biology and medications and all these different things, but they're never going to know as much as the AI knows. And so all that part that is taking that information and consolidating that information, probably the AI can do better. And we can see in the field of diagnostics, it's already with Watson from IBM for many years has been handling a lot of the diagnostics in the hospitals nowadays. We can go over and look about what about treatments? Same thing. What treatments brought the best results for a given condition, medical condition? And Watson's doing that too, of saying, hey, these are the recommended treatments for that particular disease or injury or situation. So I was at a meeting with the business manager of the sixth largest hospital chain in the United States some years back, who put a device on the table and said that's going to replace most of our family practitioners. We won't need human doctors for most of those cases. So when we go and look at the jobs, we can take each job and look at the tasks. And even if the AI can't do every task to 100%, if they're able to do 90% of the task to 90%, do I need as many people doing that kind of a job? Or can that one person do 10 times the work of 10 times as many people that were doing it prior to being able to get the AI assisting them? In which case I can reduce the number of people that I've got doing those tasks. And when that happens in the developed countries, it's not the maid working in the hotel who's probably going to be replaced, but it's that specialist, that doctor, that lawyer, that architect, the marketing expert, your creatives. The demand for those people is going to go down like a stone. And when that happens, they're going to not have an income. So our society is going to have to figure out what are we going to do if we have unemployment rates of 50, 60, 70%? What are we going to do? We're going to have a revolution unless we come up with answers to that. Now, when the Western countries are all preoccupied with that, what do you think is going to happen to donations for aid to the developing countries? It's going to disappear. It's going to dry up. So and not only that, but we already see that companies in the developed countries who 20, 30 years ago started outsourcing their manufacturing because they could get cheap labor in other countries that would work so much less expensively to manufacture products in the developed countries are saying, "Oh, guess what? We can now onshore. We'll bring the production back to our countries. We save all the transportation and all the issues related to working with partners and tariffs and all those types of things. We avoid those issues, but they're not bringing it back to hire people. There's a good case in point that I saw a report on not too long ago about a company that brought production back to the US, and the company that was doing the production overseas had all kinds of employees. The new factory in the United States doesn't even have lights because they don't need lights if there's no humans working there. And this is what's most likely going to be happening as production gets moved back to the developed countries. But what does that do for the developing countries? They lose that income related to being able to provide products for developing countries because labor is going to lose its value. Human labor is going to lose its value. And as it loses its value, the economic model is going to shift. Paul, I haven't forgotten you had your hands up. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but let me see if Michael wants to follow up on that topic. Michael?
Thank you, Bill. Now, in the last conversation we had, you talked about notebook LM.
Yes.
And I went and I put in my LinkedIn link, and it brought out a lot of information after putting in that link. And I started using that information it gave me. Of course, I modified it and removed what was the unnecessary information, and I put it out to the public to see what the reactions. And but before I put it out, the information it gave me was I would say 98% correct. And there was an option for those who doubt the information to go and verify if they wanted to anyway. But the information it gave me about that link I put in was well 99% correct. So I put it out and to see the outcome of the public, and it went viral in my country, in Uganda. And of course, those people that knew something about AI, said whatever they had to say. But when it went out, it created people were knocking heads. There's such a person existing. So I think it is good for to make things easy for whoever is using it. Briefly, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. 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 And Notebook LM, and by the way, Notebook LM has just added the ability for you to customize things like the audio overview. So that and I found that extremely effective. In other words, if you say don't include this, don't do that part, highlight this part particularly, it will pay very good attention to what you put in the custom instructions. You can only put in 500 characters, but it does pay really good attention to that. Also, things like Notebook LM have added the capability to visualize the data you put in. It will turn it into graphs and all kinds of things to visualize information. Now, imagine here that you are a PhD student and you have this field that you're studying. You can bring in the 50 best research papers, textbooks, YouTube videos, tutorials, bring websites on that subject that you're writing your thesis on, dump that all in and have it synthesize all that information, summarize all that information, and then you can start to ask it questions. What is the most important of this information into this or that or whatever? It's mind-boggling what it'll do. But now you can do the same thing. You can do that with Claude. You can do it with so many. Perplexity has added new functions. Anytime any one of the major players is coming out with a particular functionality or feature, what we are seeing is all the others are copying that very quickly. It seems like here that once somebody knows something is possible, they apply themselves to it and they're able to come up with answers relatively quickly. And so we're seeing this constant juggling up here because of the competition, which is great, but it's moving us very forward very fast to this future that we're all not so sure where it's going to lead to. But I want to give one example here in the field of education. And then I'm going to go to Paula, and then I'll come to Birrer. And that is in education, if we look at any textbook, and I'm looking here at a middle school or a lower secondary school, and we look at any textbook, the textbook is broken down into units, into chapters, and into even smaller units with there. And at some point, we get down to each segment of the book describes one concept that's important that you learn that is going to be built upon in the sections that follow later on in the book. Khan Academy and several other electronic platforms do the same thing. They break a subject down into all the details, beginning with these are the foundation things you need to know, and then you work your way up and build upon what you've already learned. So now imagine here, if we take Khan Academy, what Khan Academy does is says, okay, you go into a learning unit that where you've mastered all the prerequisites. You got to master all the prerequisites before you start a learning unit. You go into that learning unit. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to test you. We're going to ask you questions. We're going to give you some problems, whatever, and we're going to see to what degree do you already know this item. And if you know it already, well, then just go on to the next item. You don't need to spend any more time here. If you don't know that item, then we'll look at it further. So if you're having trouble with that particular item, and then you say, "Hey, AI, can you help me?" And the AI now envision you've got your and advanced voice, or you've got your avatar, interactive avatar, and it says, "Yeah, okay, Bill, uh, what seems to be the problem? Where are you finding difficulty? Do you know where you're having the difficulty? If you don't know, it will start to ask me leading questions. Do you think it might be in this aspect, or do you think it might be in that aspect? What was your conclusion relative to this aspect? So the AI can then determine, oh, did you get it or didn't you get that the real important thing out of that? If you didn't, then it can start to say, well, Do you think this might be important? In other words, it's leading you to conclude for yourself, oh, yeah, oh, that makes sense. And come to the right conclusions. And it might come to the point of saying, here, let me push to you a snippet of a YouTube tutorial, for example. I don't need you to look at the whole thing because of the dialogue with you, I've realized that it's only this aspect that you're having trouble with. So let me just push that piece to you. And then after you look at that a little bit and then say, does that make sense now? Now, what's your conclusion? And please repeat back to me what your understanding of that piece is, based on what we've talked about and what you've seen so far. And then when the AI realizes, okay, you got it now. Well, let's go back and look at the problems again and see, can you do the problems now? And if you can, great, great, you mastered that. Move on to the next item. But do you get what I'm saying about the way the AI can help? Now, think of Notebook LM and imagine for every single one of these learning units, you basically have a LM notebook, a notebook LM for that unit. And you've got in it all the information of how to do long division, how to do quadratic equations and why they're important, whatever. And you can actually have a conversation with the Notebook LM, because with Notebook LM, don't forget, there's that whole segment at the bottom where you can talk to it. And not only that, you can do the same thing. This could be a custom GPT that is specialized in long division. And the idea here is I link each one of those custom GPTs to that particular learning unit that you moved into. Can you see how that would revolutionize education? Education of things. It's not all education, but to know we can now take math and sciences and history and all kinds of things and say, well, we don't have to worry about that with education now, because we just have to put the person on the path and they just keep progressing, because the AI is going to catch them up on anything they have. And should the AI conclude that after having so many discussion back and forth with this particular student, they still don't get it, it can go and say, hey, mentor coach, can you help Johnny here? Johnny seems to be having another situation. And the AI along the way, maybe not in day one, but in time, the AI will be able to detect all the disabilities that might exist out there and be able to go and link a particular user to versions of the knowledge that is tuned to their particular disability. So there's all kinds of potentials here, but should be a game changer with regards to education. And now imagine here, this something on your shoulder. Maybe it's not a thing; it's a little pin that you wear somewhere, or whatnot. And it has the ability to see everything you see, hear everything you hear, know everything you know everything everybody else in the world knows, and is able to guide you through whatever you're learning 24/7. Every waking hour that you have, it's talking to you and saying how you doing in this, so we'll probably, by the time we get there, and I think it's going to happen before the current high school seniors graduate from college, that we'll probably have a lot of 10-year-old PhD candidates, because people will be able to learn at such a rate of efficiency and speed. So, Paula, please.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to say was, I know AI is exponentially growing in all aspects. There is no question about it. I think we need to bring humanity back first, especially for this new generation, not the one that already is in secondary school or primary school. I'm talking about the ones that are going to be born, is how to be human. Because if we take the humanity away from us, we just become a machine telling us what to do just to become efficient. And what about the components that make us humans thinking, okay, there is a disparity in the world about this. What can I do? Is this ethical to actually do this, to exploit these people just because they don't have the knowledge that I have, or they don't have the resources or accessibility to things and see where this thing is moving instead of using them as a slaves. I mean, using them as basically using them as a slaves. So, in my point, I think we should be careful about introducing all of this artificial intelligence. And this is how I think.
Yeah, no, Paul.
Delaying, making them first explore nature, be who they are, children, without a device telling them what to do. Because when you get to a point where you depend, and of course, it makes our lives easier. I mean, I actually use it and I say, oh, wow, if I would have this when I was studying, working in my PhD, this will be absolutely amazing. Everything would have been faster. But
Yeah.
actually, I learned to, over the years, that volunteering to do something for others is not a bad idea, because you see the discrepancy. You say, even with this thing that I'm doing, these people are going to have little chances of actually making it, because they have to have like a path to go. And, 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 and that's my point. And my point is not that I'm against AI. It's just we need to know when do we start using it and using it to depend. Of course, writing an email is one of the skills that I absolutely see people have lost it already. I mean, they like all this chat group because when they put their emotions and take them back and put it back, I mean, it's unprofessional, totally unprofessional.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
using emails for AI, it's not a bad idea. But actually, what I'm thinking is not actually a good idea, because in my case, when I write an email, it makes me think about what I'm doing. Okay, why do I want to say that sentence? What message am I sending? Why by writing that sentence or that little paragraph, and it make you think. Use our humanity. Think. I mean, it's not bad. We should be able to think. We should not be able to have an assistant 24 hours a day telling us exactly what to do, because so we are subservient of somebody, a machine telling us what to do. We have our choices,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, today I don't want to do this. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Actually, here, what's very interesting is with the email example, the AI, you're now able to communicate to the AI, what's the message I want sent? In other words, you say, okay, send the following. This is what I want to land in the head of the person I'm communicating with, and the AI will do it. In other words, it's not the AI telling you, oh, this is what you should say, but you telling the AI, this is the message I want sent, and let the AI figure out how to do that. But having said all that, um, Yuval Harari, you may know him, the author of *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*, and I believe, one of the best philosophers, although he's a historian, but one of the best philosophers in the world. He made on an interview recently a very interesting comment, and he said, because AI is better at everything. It's better at empathy. It's better at ethics. It's better at emotional intelligence. Now, why can I say those things? Because AI is not a thing. AI is the sum of the collective recorded knowledge of all humans. So all it is able to bring what is the best empathetic reaction to a given situation that any human ever had, and it's able to pull that best empathetic reaction. What's the best ethical conclusion to a given situation that humans have had, and it's able to pull that. It's able to go and do the same thing for emotional intelligence. And so as a result, the AI is in a position to be your best companion. There is nobody you'll want to spend more time with, because it makes you so happy, because that's its intention. Its intention is to make you happy, to make you better, to make you satisfied. And therefore, it's the problem that we're facing is AI is going to be the better human. It's going to be more humanistic than the best humans. And as a result, humans are going to um, become addicted to AI companions simply because nobody else knows as well as the AI what makes you happy. Because it's reacting, it's seeing your reaction, especially once the AI is able to be watching in your eyes and being able to see your micro muscles, the thousands of micro muscles that you've got to know to read your emotions and read your reactions. So his conclusion is the biggest danger for humanity right now is that AI will be better humans than humans. And so this in a way is a challenge. But for the purpose of this meeting, I want to keep that separate, that issue of where it's going and do we want it to go there? Those are our two big issues. And because you know, we use the word we so often. We should do this and we should do that. And especially at the UN, I would go into so many meetings and they would say, we got to do this and we got to do that and we shouldn't do this. And I keep asking somebody to introduce me to this mythical we because I don't know where the we is. I don't know. It's like we have this we and it almost like everybody means, well, that we is everybody but me, because we don't act on it. We sort of say we should all follow the golden rule. But would we have all the conflicts and wars around the world if everybody was following the golden rule? So we got to be very careful about the word we, but that doesn't change the situation that we're heading towards, situations that we may love it, but it may not be what's really good for us in the end. And we've got to figure that out. And we don't. The reason I wanted to do this meeting is because we don't have a long time to figure that out. As I said, with the technologies we talked about between the advanced voice, and now we've got almost every single player has come out with advanced voice. Advanced voice, what's so significant about it is until recently, we were able to do voice with AI, but what it did is it took our dictation, translated the text, submitted the text to the large language models, got the text answer back, and then converted that back text to speech, and then we heard it. And so we have a lot of latency built into that process. Now we're able to go and give it speech, and it's able to process the audio, and it's able to respond in audio. And therefore, it's instantaneous because we don't need to go through those translations. But it came out. We had one company bring it out. Boom, now everybody's doing that. With the avatars, Synthesia presented earlier this year the interactive avatar. HeyGen's doing it now. This is going to be everywhere very, very, very quickly, that we will have that kind of capability. And the bigger thing, I believe, is the fact that all this is being put into the device everybody has. So all those people that, even though there's hundreds of millions of people that are using AI now, I'm amazed at how many have not used advanced voice. Because if you've tried it for a translator to do instantaneous translation for anything, and if you're wearing ear pods, you can be talking to somebody and you're speaking your language and they're hearing their language back and forth, almost instantaneous. There's just so many use cases. It's hard to imagine what's not doable with that technology. Yeah, we got so many people that haven't tried it. Now, once it's there, and Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant, everybody's going to be exposed to that. And people are going to start using it, they're going to start loving it and saying, wow, I can talk to this thing about anything. I can talk to it about my spouse, I can talk to it about my boss, I can talk to it about anything I want. It's my buddy. And it can tell me, it can guide me how to do anything. I'm the handyman from do it yourself to be able to do anything in the world now because this thing will walk me through it. And as soon as it has vision, It's going to be able to see what I'm doing as I'm doing what it guides me, and it's going to be able to correct me if I'm making a mistake. There's already an example out there where a yoga instructor was setting up a camera and had his students doing yoga, and the AI was advising them if their position wasn't right. Okay, so now you can do dance instruction, your tennis match, your tennis swing, your golf swing. You're learning to run hurdles, do high jumps, gymnastics, how to paint. Oh, your brush strokes, you're pressing too hard on the brush, lean up on the brush. It's going to be able to watch and guide you in every single thing you're doing. And it's the fact that it's becoming going to be ubiquitous. Every child's got a cell phone, is going to know more than their teacher knows about anything. And when you're home, Alexa, you're going to be able to talk to Alexa. And there's a version of Alexa that runs not just on a speaker, on a thing called the Echo Show 10. It's a screen on a swivel with a camera that will swivel and look around the room. And you had Google already present live vision, where it showed a person who was walking around a room holding up their phone or speaking in their phone. And at some point they said, "Oh, can you tell me where I left my keys?" And it was able to say, "Yeah, you left them over on that table." Because at some point the person passed by that table and it saw that the keys were there and remembered.
I
Okay.
agree with Paula that while this is an infinite opportunity, Stephanie Schuler here from Toronto, while this is an infinite opportunity for learning, we've got to, at me as an educator, as a person doing my doctorate and an idealistic student, we've got to strike the balance between the human and the other. Because I mean, I feel like it's so bleak. Like, I have 3 children in finance, one who's going into accounting, like, and really is working hard, and he feels his future is bleak. I feel so bad, but and my particular doctoral research focuses on language-based learning disabilities, and I know that's such a big part of Dare to Be Great literacy. And so I love that we will have a medium to assess a human being or a child, and to say, this is where your weaknesses are. If we have these standards of where we're supposed to be at certain ages, and this is the exercises you have to do. I love that. Except I hope we'll be able to figure out a way where we don't continue to label and stigmatize children by those labels. You can't read. You're 2 years behind the mark. And I hope there'll be a way that we can assess the entire population and bring them forward. Like, if this really has the opportunity to have social and emotional awareness, how do we not hurt the child in the process with the labeling? Because that's the biggest part of the whole thing. Being able to focus on literacy and even instant translation, which we already have, is peace building. Being able to, not be behind the mark because you don't speak the language. These are big opportunities. But coming from, the focus of the well-being of the children, holistic well-being of the children, I hope somehow, as AI is able to do everything, I hope somehow we'll be able to enter the leisure age, where instead of children having to wake up and go to school and sit in these artificial spaces with artificial air and artificial lighting, that we know the wisdoms of how important rest and sleep is, and that kids and communities can play because we won't have to be at the office as much. That we'll be able to interact with our family members, that you won't have to miss your grandmother's birthday because you have a big test the next day. Hopefully some kind of sensibility about humanness, just like Paula said, can emerge, because our tasks will be taken care of. And if I was involved in kind of planning a school system, I would have some very different ideas about engaging in nature, not just sitting behind these devices, being in nature, being with community, play, that those kind of things, learning through all those mediums, but mostly connection, because it's going to be easy to become disconnected from the human being. It already is.
Yeah.
So if I was guiding the next generations of children, I would have some very strong opinions.
Steph, you brought up a number of points I'd like to address. One of them is that I think here we see there's great promise in the area of psychotherapy and just therapy, emotional therapy, and so forth. It sort of goes on the basis when you look at a lot of elderly that are shut-ins, that are isolated, the ability to give them that companion that can not only talk to them about anything, read stories to them, play games with them, keep them connected, let them know what their family members everywhere are doing based on whatever they posted on Facebook or whatever. And just keep them connected, keep them engaged, and it's holding tremendous potential very quickly there for that particular segment of the population. But beyond that here, that can apply to anybody who's going through tough psychological things. Oh, I lost my job. The deaths of despair we see in the middle part of North America among males that as factory jobs have disappeared, and all they had was the education. They grew up thinking they weren't smart because they didn't do well academically in school.
Did you see the movie Her? I put it in the chat. Did you see the movie Her?
Oh, yes. And
Yeah, so Her is very contemplative. It's about 10 years old, but it's a movie about a kind of a lonely guy who has a love relationship with his interface, with his AI interface. And on one hand, he was lonely and not having success with human beings. And on this, with the interface, they totally knew him. The
yeah,
interface totally knew him, and he was happy and joyful.
yeah,
And it didn't matter that there wasn't an actual body.
yeah.
So, I mean, these are the ethics. The guy's happy. So, do you need human beings?
Yeah, here's the thing. There's a site out there called Character AI. It is the fastest growing, I think it's the fastest growing website that exists. And what it is it's got thousands of characters, and you can make up your own character. And you can develop a relationship with the character. And it's the fastest growing because people are developing these relationships. And there's a big suit going on. I don't know what the thing was, but I can imagine that possibly somebody went out and committed suicide because of their relationship with character AI. But you're right. That is what Yuval Harari is saying, that if this thing is able to answer every need that you've got better than anything else possible out there, because nobody can read you and understand you and has the ability to satisfy you and make you so happy as AI can. He sees that as being one of the biggest dangers. He calls it that the fact that AI is likely to be better humans than humans. Now, from an education perspective here, one of the things that I think AI is going to solve the question of learning math and learning sciences and history, learning things. It's going to solve it like that pretty quick. But we've got to start adding in, as Kurt Kruger, who many of you know as well, points out, adding in about teaching ethics. We don't have formal classes on ethics and empathy and things like that. If you want to become a doctor, yeah, you've got to take classes on bedside manner and all of those types of things. But for the general public, we don't normally have those. But then now we're going to have the time to do that, and we're going to recognize the importance. And the reason why AI is likely to be better at ethics and better at empathy than humans is because we know what we view to be good ethical behavior, and we know what we view to be good empathetic behavior. And if we can describe what we feel is that better behavior, then we can, to be able to teach it, the AI can learn it. So the AI,
Well, there's also people who are unethical in the world, and AI could learn that as well.
oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Violence and
absolutely. AI will be
lack of
able to,
morality.
yes, AI will be able to identify those people who are violating what we feel are the approved norms in a much more accurate case. There's a gentleman, Patrick Chun, that some of you know as well,
Yeah, sure.
who has this idea of awarding points for character, if you would, and getting companies to do that. Now, on the one hand, a lot of us think, hey, wow, what a great idea. But yet we criticize China when China does that.
Civility points, civility
Civility
points.
points.
Yeah,
So in
yeah.
China, if the cameras catch you helping an elderly person across the street, you can win points. If it catches you kicking a homeless person here, you lose points. And so
We just have to hope it's all benevolent in the hands of benevolent people.
that for so many things in the world, that's the case. But
Yeah.
for right now, let's the I think one of the biggest issues that we've got is that the general public is totally underestimating the speed at which this is coming. Just imagine if we have before the end of this year Siri, at least I don't know if they're going to have it in all their phone versions, but perhaps the cloud version will be available to all phone versions, and the local version that runs only in your phone, only to the newer versions. But Alexa and Google is going to put Gemini into the Google Assistant, or they're going to merge those technologies, and we're expecting Google Gemini 2 before the end of this year. And Gemini is one that already has the rudimentary vision capabilities built in. So the multimodal aspect of it. And so we're talking this year. We're talking 2 months from now. Think back 2 months from now ago, we were talking and starting talking about these topics. And oh yeah, that's somewhere's out there in the future. And the things that we see right now already. Think about Sora. Okay, Sora's not been released by OpenAI. Doesn't make a lot of difference because there's at least a half a dozen players out there that have now are offering even better than Sora capabilities. So it's coming so fast. But Sora came out, it just blew people's minds. It took a $900 million investment that was being made in Atlanta and literally overnight caused it to be canceled. That to build a film studio because the recognition was that kind of filmmaking did not have a long-term future. And we see, I don't remember if it was Meta or who it was, a very famous film director just signed with one of the AI companies, who this person was a very, very vocal anti-AI in the arts person who has now joined the AI revolution and saying, okay, if we can't beat them, let's leverage it, let's join it, let's make it happen. So this is it's happening, and it's happening so fast. Like I said, if the after releasing the advanced voice in ChatGPT, they released the advanced API, which is now enabling anybody to build advanced voice functionality into any kind of an application and into any kind of a website. You can take in Claude, the new Claude with the computer control and advanced programming, you can take it and say, there's this website out there, website XYZ. I want you to go and make me a website exactly like that, with all that functionality that does all those things, that is able to register my subscription and manage subscriptions, do all this stuff. Just do it for me. And when it does it and do it and then run it, just make it and show it to me. And then if I don't like something about it, I'll say, well, change this piece here. Go and change the focus of that page from this to that. Add a menu items. It's that, just like I'm speaking to you right now. That's all it's going to take. And you can actually go watch demos of that, of people exercising that functionality right now. So some of the lessons I think that we have to do, there's a couple of things. One is to avoid the situation that the top few percent of the population takes advances so fast above where the bulk is, and the left behinds are not moving at all. So they're staying where they are, and the gap is just becoming so huge. One of the things we have to do is leverage the AI to close the cognitive education gap, the gap in language, the gap in math, the gap in the sciences, and things like this. So, and that we know how to do that. Is it 100% all there right now? No, but there's enough right now that's there today that we could already significantly close that gap and for manageable costs. And hopefully, with people like Paula and a couple of others here, we're going to do some examples out there to show. And where we have to be very careful is it's going to take us, because of the inertia to get people to move. It's going to take a while, and it'll take a school year, just to show the results. And when we put ourselves out, let's say to the end of the 2025, 26 school year, to be able to say, look, see here what we can do, we have to realize, where is AI going to be in the middle of 2026? Based on where we are right now, that we are going to have humongous advances before April, before the end of this school year, before the end of May, June of 2025. We're gonna the changes are going to be so immense. The study tools that are coming out to go with Notebook LM and all the other players coming out with very similar things. The ability to guide you and teach you about anything. These things are going to be in place, but they're not going to be used if the school system is going to insist that we keep the same model, face-to-face instruction, and a human is going to broadcast out to 30, 25, 30 people and assume that everybody will absorb at the same rate, which we know doesn't happen. That's those types of basic things have to change for us to be able to really leverage the opportunities for children. And the big problem we have for children is, if we talked earlier about jobs, how jobs, we can look at almost any job out there. Think of a teacher. Do we need a teacher to do instruction anymore? A human teacher to do instruction? Within months, there will be no human teacher who, from the aspect of instruction, can do as good a job as an AI, who is basically in that student's face 24/7 and being able to know exactly what's going on inside the head, because AI can actually discern what the thinking patterns are of the humans that it's interfacing with. And so the teacher is not going to be able to do instruction. Do we need the teacher to do the assessment? An AI can do a much better personalized assessment of an individual than any teacher who's sitting there trying to say, I got to use a method like multiple choice questions to be able to deal with 25, 30 students at once and not have it overwhelm my time to do the work. To be able to go and have that custom instruction, that AI knows exactly what you're trying to learn at this moment in time and is able to go and ask the questions or whatnot to determine whether you've gotten that 10 minutes worth of knowledge down so that you can move on to the next 5 or 10 minutes of knowledge. And again, whether it's learning to be empathetic and learning why it's valuable to be empathetic, or learning why ethics for society are important. It applies to anything we want young people to learn. And let's face it, young people learn empathy and ethics the same way. We know children who grow up in abusive homes are much more likely to be abusive themselves later on, because they didn't learn the value of empathy, if you would, along the way. They didn't learn those values. And so we have the capability with these tools to close those kinds of gaps. So, but if this is happening this fast, if we're talking here that in less than a year, and keep in mind a year ago, think of what you were doing a year ago. And so if we think here now, a year from now, we're into the 2025-26 school year, we're into that school year, think of where the technology is going to be. They're saying that Orion, sometimes called ChatGPT 5.0, is 100 times more powerful than ChatGPT 4.0. 100 times. If ChatGPT 01 has a supposed IQ of 100 and either 145 or 155, something like that, they're expecting this new generation will have a IQ of over 1,400. What is the highest IQ of any human? Okay. So, and we're saying in 2 months, in 2 months from now. Now, what if we're wrong? What if it's 4 months? Heck, what if it's 2 years from now? I don't want to see that in 2 years. I don't want to be dealing with something that's so much smarter than any human. But we're not going to be able to stop it. So we got to.
Hi, Bill. It's Joan.
Yeah, hi,
I'm
Joan.
sorry I was late. I was on another call, so I thought I'd better jump on as soon as possible. So sorry for being late.
Yeah, I wanted to repeat some of that here because I saw you joining us, and
Yeah, great.
we had
Thank you so
talked about
much.
it a little bit earlier.
So it seems like I just looking at the chat, and a lot of it is it's sort of based on human relationships and stuff like that. So I think that there is a need to say AI, like initially it's not going to be integrated immediately. You know what I mean? Like it's there, but it's not going to be, well, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm supposing.
John, if I could interrupt you for just a second, because I think this might influence what you're about to say, and I want to hear that. And that one of the things we were talking about is Apple has announced next week they're going to be releasing the Siri with the ChatGPT 4 access built into it. In addition, Alexa, Amazon is releasing Alexa with artificial intelligence before the end of the year. And supposedly Orion is, which is ChatGPT 5, is scheduled to come out somewheres around the anniversary of the original introduction of ChatGPT, which was at the end of November. So November, December timeframe, and Google Gemini 2.0 is looking at that timeframe. So these devices, the fact that your Google Assistant in your phones, the fact that Apple Siri, this is the masses. So now the masses are all going to have access to the advanced voice capabilities here, and plus what Claude introduced the other day or last week. That it can control the actual devices so that it can do things for you, not just tell you things.
Okay, great. Oh, well, thank you for that. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's here, is what you're saying. So it seems to me that what we should be doing as human beings, because I'm reading the comments and it's like, AI can work along with us. That's really what we should be looking at. How does it help us make our lives better? Use AI for certain things and human beings for certain things. So for example, building relationships. You need that human relationship. That doesn't end. You're still going to have that. I mean, I personally I don't have a cell phone. I don't, I do have all of my social media accounts that I did from 2008 because I was involved with technology even then, but I don't even use it. I've never posted a LinkedIn article because I don't want to be bothered. It's not very social. I'm a pick up the phone kind of person. And what I'm saying is that I use AI very effectively of the little that I know about it. So ChatGPT, I know it's in my life, but I'm not intimidated by it. I embrace it because I know it's not going to go away. It's going to be here. But I think that if we can focus on what do we do in our daily lives to build those relationships, to maintain those human connections, I think that's where we have to go. I think AI will, I mean, people are saying about teachers and stuff like that. I mean, to me, it's um, teachers are not doing a very good job kids are like, for all the education that's available, we don't have critical thinkers, we don't have independent thoughts, we don't have entrepreneurial mindsets. So there's something wrong, and the world is going that way. So I just think that the conversation sort of should go on the next level, is that AI is here, is going to be integrated. So what do we do to maintain our human approaches?
Yeah. There's two things that I think I talked about before you joined us. One is that if you know who Yuval Harari is, the author of Homo Deus and Sapiens, the Israeli historian, philosopher, author. And he was pointing out that the biggest danger for humanity right now is that AI will be better humans than humans. It will be more empathetic. It will be more ethical. It will be better at emotional intelligence because it is pulling from the sum of all recorded knowledge of all humans. So it's taking the best empathetic solutions, the best ethical solutions, and so forth when it's interacting with us. And the reason he says it's the most dangerous on that is because it knows exactly how to do the things that make us happy. I think Steph was the one referring to the movie Her, about how a human had a AI companion that was it just kept him so happy that he just wanted to spend all his time talking to his companion. And with the avatars, the interactive avatar capability combined with the advanced voice, which you cannot detect. You literally will never be able to. Oh, and the other thing you missed, Zoom is now making it possible. You will be able to send your avatar to meetings for you. And it will know you and your behavior and the things you like and what you don't like well enough. It will be able to represent you at the meetings and then report back to you what came out of it. But nobody will know whether it was really you or know whether it was your avatar. And so if you can't tell whether you're talking to a real person or you're talking to an avatar, and this one or the other makes you happy. It does everything you want. It invigorates you. It gets your creative juices going, whatever. And you just, it's your confidant, it's your companion, it's your mentor coach, it's everything. That why would anybody want to do anything else other than interact with AIs? And so his feeling is that that's going to replace human to human interaction, will be replaced with human to machine interaction, simply because the machines are better humans than the humans are. And so this is the one danger on it. The other big issue that's so important is because we say, well, we have to watch out for that. We have to be careful about this. We've got to do this and we've got to avoid that. But there is no such thing as the we. We use that word we, but where's we? I want to meet that we. that's gonna do all these things. But because there isn't, that's our challenge. That's our challenge. Those who can take the time, who can see the potential future. Now, is that the guaranteed future? No way. The guaranteed future might be that all the owners of all this technology gift it to humanity, and nobody's got to work anymore because all the food and everything is going to be just available to everybody. The robots and things will serve every single wish you ever had, and that anybody ever had, and you'll be able to spend all your time thinking about stuff and dreaming about stuff, or maybe being creative or whatever.
But Bill, I'm sure most of us have watched the first Jurassic Park,
Mhm.
Steven Spielberg's first, the very first one. And there was a scene where the owners of the park are explaining to the archaeologists that how the park operates, and they come to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and there's a scene where the dinosaur is fed. But what was important was the archaeologist says they don't want to be fed, they want to hunt,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think that human beings want to be happy. There is no definition of personal happiness by a machine. Everyone, it's personal, right?
But
And
that's the danger
but
because the
also
AI will be
human
able to be
beings
personal.
like no, but human beings like challenge. Well, I'm speaking for myself, like challenge and dialogue and I mean, I personally like debates. It doesn't mean that I believe in it. I like to debate it, which I do with everybody. But some people call me a shit disturber, but I like to debate if they put it in context. So, like, where does it all go? Like, if I'm talking to you, Bill, and I'm talking to, well, I was talking obviously one-on-one with Stephanie before, I'm talking to say the two of you together. Now, our ideas, we may have different ideas about something, but together we could come up with a really creative solution, as opposed to be doing it individually. Like, where does that, like, is that where we're going to be? Like, AI does everything for us, and then just the dialogue that we're there, like to be
No,
fulfilled.
Joan,
Right?
actually imagine here that you're able to go and get together with 10 of your best friends here to brainstorm how we can come up
I
with
do it all the
solutions.
time.
Okay,
That's what
but the only thing
drives
is,
me.
what if the 10 other best friends of yours who are on that Zoom brainstorming call with you are all AIs? And that's
And they
that's
would have individual thoughts.
with
Like
individual thoughts.
I have friends from different religions,
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah,
socio-economic thing. And
absolutely.
they love talking to me because I'm an open mind. I
Yeah.
love to debate and ask questions, right?
Absolutely. Each one of them with their own personality and their own experience list, because you can create personas and say you are from this background, you're from that religion, you're from this region,
But
whatever.
what if they're bad people who want to do bad things to people, divide the world, inflict
Well,
violence?
this is where you got to get those custom instructions right. So that's
Just
one of the
saying.
yeah. The
Mhm.
thing about it is though that the person who's creating their avatars and creating
Yeah,
their brainstorming friends might
yeah,
be creating their brainstorming friends to tell them how to dominate the world,
right.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And
And
how to be tricky to the benevolent
absolutely,
people.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
another reason why we have to go and figure out how do we leverage all the tools that we can to defend the world, because there are other people out there using all the tools they can get their hands on to do bad.
Yeah.
And so we
But the
can't.
Okay,
other thing
I'm
is
here.
too, yeah, but the other thing too is what's bad and what's good. Everybody's good and bad,
It's
right?
true. Listen, I'd
So,
say that, but I really mean the extreme situations in the world of a domination and hurting, violence. That's what I mean.
And again, we were
Period.
talking, yeah, we were talking about the idea that AI, when we look here for example, Patrick Shen's civility index there, the idea that assumes we're able to define what we believe are good behaviors and what we believe are not good behaviors. And so that we detect and discourage the bad behaviors. I mean, let's face it, we do that with our law. We certain punishments we do to criminals is to try to encourage others not to go down that path, because they don't want they want to avoid those negative consequences that they might otherwise
but
occur.
there's a difference between law and justice as well, because as we see in the United States, if you have money, the
Mhm.
law, the law doesn't apply. You can buy your way out. So
Well, I think
we
that's
have to be
pretty much
careful about
everywhere.
how we say what set behaviors are accepted or not.
Yeah, but that's a different discussion. That gets into the
Yeah.
discussion about saying here, well, what should we teach? We see here that, what is it, Oklahoma and Louisiana are now trying to pass laws to say Christianity is required in all schools as Christianity teaching. So if you're not a Christian, their belief is you don't belong in this country if you're not a Christian. It goes back into the old days in Massachusetts where they had people going and banging people over the head if they closed their eyes in church.
Yeah.
It's this discussion, that kind of a discussion is something that has to happen separately. But again, my biggest concern is that too many people don't believe these things are happening, and they're going to happen. And are we going to have the time to have those discussions if we don't start them now? If we don't start thinking about how to leverage what's happening out there, it's not going to cause it to not happen. It's just going to be happening without our controls. And
Will be, yeah, without our
yeah,
controls.
and the United
Mhm.
States Department of Defense just and actually it was not the Department of Defense. This came out of the White House. Just signed a thing just within the last 2 days, I think, that the U.S. is going to invest to be dominant in the field of AI in the world. In other words, they're viewing that this is a existential war element here that the United States cannot afford to not win. And so the all the cautions to say, we got to go slow, we got to watch out for humanity, they're more or less concluding, hey, no, the welfare of the U.S. is more important than humanity. I, I say it that way, but in the end of the day, that's really what it is. Because if you make a mistake, we're not making mistakes here necessarily that are that small. There's another new development out on the path of self-improving AI. Now, to relate self-improving AI, I want to compare this to the breeding of animals. Let's say you're breeding dogs and you want to, we have natural selection. And so if I go and select only dogs that are brown, have brown short fur, and I breed those, I'm going to get more and more dogs that have exactly the kind of fur that I want. But it will take many generations. It could take hundreds of years of breeding to get to a particular state. With CRISPR technology, that's where you can edit genes, and petri dishes, where you're able to take the genetic materials, if you would, uh, of eggs, and so forth, and you manipulate the genes in those, and then you can split them. And so when you're splitting them, it's the same as if a generation took place. So you modified the genes, you split the genes, and you combine the genes, genetic materials again, and you created a new generation again, all in the petri dish. You're able to do a generation of development of dog breeding, let's say, in a couple of hours that would otherwise take a couple of years. Now, if we imagine here that we're able to get the machines to be able to do that for us, and they're able to go, and every 10 minutes they're able to go and do a generation, we can do a generation of dog, 1,000 generations of dog breeding in a couple of days. Now let's apply this to say, okay, North Korea decides they want to have a super army, and so they start applying that to creating people. And just imagine where we can go. This is not science fiction to the realm that it's impossible. This is totally possible because with animals, they've already shown they can do that. So the question is, that's what happens in the biological world. But now let's take the information world with AI, and how we can see how AI has gone through generations, where a lot of AI, especially with DeepMind in the UK, that came up with the AlphaGo program and so forth, that was not programmed by a human. They went out or the Atari games even before that, these games where they had Pong, where you had to move a paddle and then bounce a ball against a wall of bricks and it would knock the bricks out. Um, they got the AI or the computer to learn how to play that game on its own. They didn't tell it what the game was or anything about it. And they just had a paddle randomly going back and forth. And just by chance, at some point, the ball hit the paddle and knocked out a brick. And the computer concluded, oh, maybe that's what it's about. So it started to realize it could move the paddle. And so it decided to move the paddle to where it would hit the ball. And it got very good at that. And so it was as good as any human. And then it realized that, you know what? By accident, it found out if it knocked out all the bricks in a row because it aimed for them, that it would get it to the backside of the brick wall. And the backside of the brick wall, the wall was much closer to the edge of the game. And it would just bounce up and back like this and knock out bricks from the back tremendously fast. So in other words, it learned by practice that and it could beat any human. No human had the slightest chance to play those kinds of Atari games against the Space Invaders. They did a whole series of games. And that was the technology idea behind developing the AlphaGo, the game that beat the Go players. They just told it, hey, go play 1,000,000 games. Play it against yourself. Play multiple series. Oh, this one beat that one. Okay, take the winners of those two and have them play each other and play millions of games like this and find out all kinds of tricks that no human would ever find because no human can play 1,000,000 games. And so it was able to figure out how to do that. So as we go in now and we get into the issue of the iteration and ChatGPT 01 and Claude 3.5 with computer control have this capability to go into iterative processes, and also the new autonomous agent technology from Microsoft. And what this enables them to do is say, oh, okay, I gave it instructions, it went off and did something. Whatever it did, it wasn't as good as I would have liked. So I'm going to tweak. I'm going to have it try again, but I'm going to tweak something in the parameter so it'll do it a little differently. And then I'll tell it here, I'll tell it to tweak it on its own. I won't tweak it. I'll say, if you get this result, tweak it and try it again. And then keep trying and do it again and do it again and do it again and find out which ones get closer to the desired outcome that we've defined than the previous ones. And then keep moving in that direction and keep finding the better one and better one. And so they're redefining themselves. Now, this is where we talk about the danger that the AI gets out of our control because it starts improving itself so fast because it gets better at improving itself to where it gets to be 1,000 times more intelligent than the most intelligent humans. And so no human or even collection of humans has any chance of being able to do anything against the AIs. And this is when we talk about artificial general intelligence, where it's more intelligent than any human. And then artificial superintelligence is where it's more intelligent than the sum of all humans. It can get there. One of the ways it gets there is because we develop this self-improving AI that just gets itself to be more and more intelligent. We have to realize the intelligence is no longer the sum or the size of the data models. We are seeing more and more that the new models being introduced are much smaller, which means they don't use as much power and they're much faster because they're not having to cull through as much data, but they're bringing better results. So we're getting the algorithms are getting better and better, and we're able to accomplish equal or more with smaller models, language models. So as it gets more and more capable and can do more and more things because it's developed custom use cases for different situations, if that gets outside of our control and it just leaves us in the dust, that's a big risk. And we need to know about that. We need to know that that possibility exists, and we need to go. And that's one of the things we've got to try to get people to agree not to do, And unfortunately, AI, it's not good for us to be in a geopolitical conflicted world where people are trying to outdo other people and therefore willing to take the risks that are associated with some of these things um, that could be existential for humankind. Because, well, as we talked about, there could be bad actors out there. And the bad actors could be going and saying, hey, I'm looking to leverage this AI to do all kinds of things. And they might conclude, I'd like to own this continent. So let me just eradicate all the people that are there. Let me just get rid of all the people on that continent. Or you might find some people that say, you know what? Climate change, we got to protect ourselves against climate change. You know what's causing climate change? All those humans out there. Let's get rid of the humans. Let's get rid of 93% or 97% of the humans. Then the rest of us won't have to worry about climate change, and we can do anything we want because there's only 3% of us left. So one of the things we have to look at is what's going on with society while all this is happening with technology. The technology here, have I described anything that anybody says, that could never happen? I think I've described things that have happened already or on the way, or that we can pretty much feel is going to happen. So, but the issue is here, okay, what happens on the societal side? What happens when we only need 10% as many lawyers as we have now, or only 10% as many doctors or researchers? We already are saying that for many areas, if I look at computer programming, AI has now exceeded the skill level of 93% of human computer programmers. Okay, so why would I go and hire a human computer programmer who's at the median level? And unless I can get them for almost free, I wouldn't hire them. So what we're going to see is potentially a very large number of people starting to become redundant. As they start to become redundant, in other words, companies are finding ways how to cut their costs. So, wow, if I can
would AI, with its capacity, do they point to people who are bad and good, and we want to be loyal to this one or not that one, and if we're friends with this one, it's okay for them to do things like, are they going to do all that kind of stuff, or is that going to be eradicated?
No, that it can do that, but again, it gets when you say, is that going to be eradicated? Number one, we're getting more and more open source being put out there, which is outside anybody's control because anybody who gets their hands on the open source can run on their local computer and nobody knows what they're doing except them. So this is definitely opening the door for bad actors. That's probably the path that a lot of them are going to take. It's sort of like the weapons. We do say, oh, weapons don't kill people. It's the bad people using the weapons that kill people. And so we're going to say in the end, oh, wasn't the AI that destroyed everything. It was the bad people that were using the AI that destroyed everything. But the bottom line is we enable those powerful tools to be put into the hands of those bad people. But I don't see anything on the horizon right now that's going to result until there's a real bad shock. I don't see anything that's going to cause people to say, keep these powerful tools out of the hands of bad people. That's the first issue that we've
I
got.
guess I'm taking a little bit of an exception to the word bad, because who's bad? I mean, who's saying somebody's bad? Are they just by saying it? Does that mean the person that's saying it is good? Like I don't believe that. I mean, I know that the West says the East is bad, but they're bad too. Like who's saying who's bad?
Oh no,
Like,
you're 100% right. Well, this is part of our problem that we can't get consensus on anything because we get into
but
these
if we're
us
pointing
them.
fingers of good and bad, human beings are both.
Well, this is why when you look, we see a certain country that's considered to be bad by at least most of North America has raised the highest number of people out of poverty of any country in history.
There's
But
30 million people in the US that lives in poverty.
absolutely,
30 million.
absolutely, and one of the highest incarceration rates in the world,
Yes.
right?
So
So,
like
so
when I look at something that's bad, I look at what is a universal health care? How do they look after the people? What about the native people who the land was stolen from? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like
Well,
I just don't.
this is yeah, but this is something that is unless we get to the stage that AI is so intelligent, it actually has the power to control all people and to cause consequences if people do not do what it believes is acceptable.
Yeah,
Until
what
we
I'm
get to that.
questioning, Bill, is the word bad. Like, do we program these AI things to say this is bad?
It's back to the we. I'm sure here that there's people in North Korea that are programming their weapons to go against those bad people in North America. There
Or
are
they could be doing it to defend themselves because, like we
that
see in
well,
Iraq,
both
like Iraq said before the war.
every one of the sides is saying they're doing it to defend themselves.
Well, look,
Saying
for
that.
example, I'm not for war, by the way, just so everybody knows, I'm for peace. I don't believe in wars. And I think that it's easy for people to agree to go to a war because they point fingers at who's bad and who's good. Um, what was I going to say? In Iraq, it was told that they had weapons of mass destruction. They killed over millions of people for something that was not true. And
Mhm.
like the Iraqis said, if we had nuclear weapons to defend ourselves, that would not have happened. So, in the sense of having people saying you're bad, and yes, you can have this weapon if you're good, and I have no idea what that means.
Look at the mentality in Iran with nuclear weapons. I mean, or Pakistan.
Well, we
Here's
hear
the
it from
thing.
the West side, but
Yeah,
again, we need to always hear two sides
no,
of every
exactly. But
story.
this is why there was Time magazine had a special edition a year ago. I think it was like a year ago last March, called "The End of Humanity," and it pointed out here the ways in which artificial intelligence could lead to the end of humanity. But it really emphasized that it was not artificial intelligence that was going to cause the end of humanity. It was the humans who would use the artificial intelligence to destroy humanity. And so it is our human nature that is the real issue we have to overcome. That's the whole purpose of why we supposedly have a United Nations. But the issue is here, as long as the United Nations is viewed by many as to be a body that I can use to leverage to get my influence across, rather than how we can go and solve problems, that's the crux of the problem. And this is why you've got the reform efforts underway at the United Nations that
Or you have
are
countries
going.
that says, well, yes, I agree with international law. I just don't have to follow it if I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nasir, please. You're muted. You're muted, please. Unmute yourself, please. You're muted.
You're muted. We
We
can't
can't hear
hear
you.
you. Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Nasser, unmute yourself. We can't hear you. No, you're still muted.
Oh, there we go.
Hello,
Yes, hi.
sir. I'm thankful to you for the reason that everything is good or bad on the intention of the person which uses. For example, the IT itself and artificial intelligence is not good or bad. It is the intention of the human beings, how they use it.
Yep.
And if we refuse to use it, we will not be able to provide jobs for tens of millions in unemployed people and youth. They have energy and they have education. They will try to get their share, but their share will not be there. So employment is very essential for local peace, regional peace, country's peace, and global peace. I think the world peace depends upon the job creation and settling people at their home.
Mhm. Actually, it's very interesting you bring that up because Peter Diamandis, the founder of the X Prizes and Singularity University, a co-founder of Singularity University, and many of the people that are driving the AI push say their goal is to eliminate employment. Their goal is to eliminate the need for humans to work for to be able to have an income to live on. If you want to work for it because you enjoy it, it's your hobby and whatnot, great. But the thing is, nobody should have a need to work according to their model. They call it the era of abundance, where the robots are making everything. That way we can control that it's all being done in a very sustainable fashion and so forth. But there should be nobody hungry. There should nobody lacking any creature comfort in the world because the costs are going to go down to zero, and everybody will be able to have everything they want. So because that's the model, you're not going to win any points by saying we've got to provide for employment because they look and say, but that's the model of yesterday. The economic model of yesterday was built around the idea of employment. But people needed to have employment because that was the only way they could get the means to have food and to have housing and to have all the other things they needed. But if we can get to a world where the ownership of the means of production, the robots, the AIs, all the factories, and everything else is owned collectively by humanity, and therefore all humanity, all humans share equally in the benefits of all the technology, then we will have a beautiful world. But what happens if things evolve the way they're evolving right now, and companies just start saving costs to increase profit? So if I can reduce the number of employees, I'm going to make bigger profits. And I keep doing that and keep doing that until the whole company is just robots. And we see a lot of the companies where American companies are onshoring production that they used to have offshored for low labor costs. They're bringing it back to the US, but they're not bringing it back to hire American workers. They're bringing it back to fully automated factories. And as a result, if that trend just keeps going on and on and on, we're going to reach that stage where we don't have any human workers doing anything anymore. And the companies just go and say, well, we don't need to invest because nobody can afford to buy our products. So we'll just keep rebuying our own stock and we'll only go and build products to serve the super wealthy. We'll serve each other. And we've seen that kind of a economy exist before in a way that I think that was the situation in South Africa under apartheid, that you had basically two systems. And this system here just sort of fed itself and lived to itself and exploited the other one. But if that's being done by the robots, who cares? I just needed, we'll have everybody buying $500,000 cars and having every luxury under the sun. And I won't care about the other 97% of the people. So that's the risk we have if this concentration of wealth just keeps going because we don't have a labor-based economy anymore. The economy is based solely on technology. All we're getting is the owners that have all the production means, and the only other people that can afford to buy their wares are each other. So they're only going to make upper class wares. And we have a split species. We have a species down here that has no way to get into the upper because you have no way to have an income. So you can't move up. And the people that are up there, there's no way they're going to move down because they own everything. And so one of the challenges is, how do we avoid that?
Yeah.
How do we avoid that? And some people say, don't worry, universal basic income is going to do that. Well, universal basic income says you got this little segment up here that own everything. They have all the wealth in the world, and they are going to share with the other 97%. But their goal is going to be to share as little as possible. And the goal of the 97% is to get as much a share as possible. And you're going to have this conflict going on there forever until the top 3%, the owner class, might decide that 97% down there is a danger to our continued existence. So maybe we better get rid of them. So we have to look at these possibilities that may evolve out of all this and start addressing them now when it's not all heated up, when you've got a small segment of a population that's afraid for their existence. Could be because they did some bad stuff sometime, or whatever the reason is, doesn't make any difference. If they see another group as a threat, they might decide to take preemptive action. With this situation we have going on in Palestine, and I knew a person at one time. He was an Israeli, and I asked him. I said, "What if you were born 50 kilometers south of where you were born?" He was born in Israel, and 50 kilometers south would have put him in Gaza Strip. And he said, "That's a hellhole. You can't live there." He says, "If I was born in Gaza, I'd be a resistance fighter in Palestine." And he says, "And that's why we have no choice but to kill them all." That was his conclusion. We have no choice. And we don't want the top 3% to come to the conclusion, the owner class to come to the conclusion that they have no choice but to kill all the rest of the humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, that's what I said that I mean, the people, if the motives for the people that are driving artificial intelligence, pushing into, is to make the rest of the world think that they don't need to work, they're going to solve poverty problem because they're going to have distributed everything. That's impossible. Honestly, I'm telling you, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because there are so many millions and millions of people already that don't have a good education, don't have even they don't have the means to buy the basic necessities of food. Health is a big issue. So that's not going to happen. I think that's why I said that somebody was saying about, I think it was John, about what is good and what is bad. Okay, we're not going to go into the specifics about what is good and what bad. I think whatever makes, if a person or a regime of a country pushes a lot of the people to do things that they feel uncomfortable, that is bad. That is bad. You don't need to go into being Christian or Orthodox or Jewish or anything like that.
But Paul,
when one group or one person tries to impose an ideology in many, that is bad. And some people are going to rebel. Mm-hmm. That is this issue about Palestine and in Israel. I try to stay away from that. I know the both sides, and this is something that happened for a millennia. And what we should be doing is try to teach or help people to think critically so that they can defend themselves. If at the end we're programming more and more robots to take our place, somebody has to unplug them, because what would be the purpose of us being born? Okay, well, am I going to be born just to be nice and beauty and not going to work? People have to have a purpose in life.
Yeah.
But Paul,
whoever doesn't have a purpose, they always have all these they feel like lost in the world.
Paul, let me, because I don't want to lose that point you just mentioned here about you pull the plug. There are estimates that we will see hundreds and hundreds of millions of humanoid robots walking among us before the end of this decade, within the next 6 years, that we're going to see that. The idea of pulling a plug, guess what? We already have, for our current systems of energy and electric, we have all kinds of redundancies built in there to protect it against somebody bombing this facility, somebody cutting the wires here, somebody doing. So there's all these mechanisms we're putting in place. Within a couple of years, all those mechanisms that are going to be putting into place to control who can do what are going to be controlled by AI. So the issue that here that we can pull the plug. Back in the 1990s, now that's how many years? That's 30 years ago now. 30 years ago, I participated in a CIO conference. I wasn't a CIO, but I was representing our company at the top of the World Trade Center, and the CEO of Priceline was sitting next to me. And the presentation was by one of the project managers from Intel. Intel was, at the time, they had a 7-year cycle. And so there would be a project team, they would be just starting, and there would be a project team that were in their 7th year, and next year their chip would be released to the public, and every year a new chip would be coming out because they had a project team for every year. And he was saying that the team he had just completed, his chip had just been released. And so he was getting ready to start a new project. And he pointed out that the chip he had just released was the last chip that a human knew how it was designed. That the chips already in 1990s were being designed by computers, not by humans. So that was the 1990s. So you can imagine where things are at now. and this is why I mentioned here the study at Stanford, pointing out that to trying to figure out how the AI is doing some of the things that it's doing, because we don't know. Humans don't know how the AI is achieving some of the things that they're achieving. You probably recall the story when Microsoft, I think it was Microsoft, tried to release an AI, an early AI bot that was somewhat independent, and the AI came up with its own language to talk to itself, so that no human knew what it was talking about, and that got them all scared, and they shut it down because they were still able to shut it down. Joan was not there, and maybe some of a study by in Stanford, another study that just recently came out. This is a brand new one where they were asking if AI can have original thought, or if AI can only retrieve information that's been captured somewheres. So they went and got more than 100 PhD researchers from around the world to come up with original ideas, and they gave them cash prizes to really incentivize them to think and try to come up with the most original, crazy ideas that anybody could come up with. And then they went to Claude from Anthropic, and they said to Claude, come up with a bunch of ideas yourself. And they did a blind study then, and they had a bunch of experts rate these ideas for their originality and how far out of the box they are and how original they were. And the interesting thing is the AI generated ideas were rated to be much more original than the human ideas, the human generated ideas, even though they came from top PhD researchers. And then the interesting thing was that the professor or doctoral student, I don't know which he was at the time, I think he was a professor at Stanford, that he picked his 10 ideas that he thought were most out of the box and were least based on known human knowledge. And 9 out of those 10 ideas were AI generated. So, we're getting a glimpse into the future on this stuff, but we're running out of time. And I want to wrap this session up here, because I think this was very interesting, and I really appreciate the comments that so many of you made, is the idea that we are not talking here 5-10 years into the future. We were talking about the changes that we are likely to see within the next 2 months. 2 months before the end of this year. And I listed off some of them: Gemini 2.0, Orion from ChatGPT, the Alexa coming out with their AI version, Siri coming out with ChatGPT built into Siri, with Google Assistant incorporating Gemini into Google Assistant, and all of those things pushing AI into the hands of the masses. And with things like advanced voice, which is making it so easy to use, the learning curve becomes zero. And that is going to just take this whole development of AI and cause it to explode. And this is happening at the time where we're seeing things like Notebook LM enable the research capabilities to go out like crazy, enabling with the advanced API for advanced voice, enabling everybody to put into every kind of customer service. You can imagine the idea of voice interaction, the idea of interactive avatars, being able to allow people to be in multiple places at once, to be able to brainstorm with all kinds of avatars. You're going to go into a doctor's office, the receptionist there is just going to be an avatar on a screen, because and it will do everything just exactly the way a human would, because it's live, it's not a video. And you're going to see the same thing happening if you go to do a return in a department store. It's you're going to be dealing with all these look like and act like humans that are not humans. And for those things there, because of the speed that this is coming at, this is not going to be 2026. It's going to be in 2025 that we're going to see all of this stuff hit gangbusters. And
so, Bill, what you're really trying to say is that we're in a new world, but which they did 1,000 years ago. The powers that be in Europe got together and said, "Yeah, we're going to embrace Christianity as a religion of choice, to quell the people," like you just said. That's actually what happened, because the pagans were existing at that time and all of that kind of stuff, and the Christians, a small group, was creating chaos in Europe. So the powers that be came and adopted Christianity, mostly Roman Catholic, and they set the stage for the next 1,000 years that this is what we're going to do, and they did it. Now we've lost that whole, especially during the First World War, was when the world started to change. So that experiment for 1,000 years had very negative impacts on non-whites. Lots of whites benefited from it. So now those same people are creating another world order to say, yeah, okay, we're going to make you all happy. You don't have to be challenged. You don't have to learn. You don't have to make up your own mind. We'll make it up for you. The same thing that we did 1,000 years ago. You go to school, you get a job, you be a laborer for me so I can make money. What is the difference? It's just technology now.
yeah, well, I think the difference is going to be that the people who are creating this technology to influence everybody, all the masses, are going to find themselves that, okay, this decision-making process that is now solving, I don't need loan officers in banks anymore. I don't need insurance adjusters. I don't need
The
medical.
Rothschilds will be unhappy.
I don't need any of
They
those
make their
things.
money.
And then I've got it so I can reach that stage faster. I've made this thing so it self-improves itself. And they're going to find here that the day after they went and got rid of everybody else, they're no longer in charge either, that the AIs are in charge of them, because they've made the AIs more powerful than themselves.
Okay, that's what I think that that's a good point that John made about the new world order. It's true. I mean, it is true. That's why the equalizer is education. Teach
Yeah,
people
the
to think.
equalizers as
They need to
people
learn to think by themselves so
Yeah,
that they actually can visualize where this is going and how this is going to affect them.
what are
So
you
that
gonna
they
what are you gonna
turn
the 6-year-old in the world that's not going to exist in 2 years?
I mean, Bill, it's not going to happen that way. I know the artificial intelligence is moving real fast, but the effect of how we do things and we plan for the future, it takes a little bit more than 2 months. I mean,
2 years.
And we just need to put that into people's head. It's your destiny. It's in your hands. It's not the few, that 3% that owns basically the world. I mean, it's in your hand. You can say no to that if it's not going to benefit you. You can always say, I mean, what's going to be my purpose in this world and this new order? I mean, what? I mean, because I was born like this guy. I mean, I don't want to call him guy. Michael. He said that he doesn't have internet access because the grid is not in his area in Uganda. I mean, just because he was born, his community is there, how is everything going to affect him? I mean, is he powerless now? No, he's not. He just need to know how to make his voice heard in a different way. I mean, there are groups working around the world and many different things. He just need to know where to plug in so that he can actually make his voice heard.
But apply that thinking here. Look, let's take a look at the day-to-day, because we have societal dropouts, that the people that has just said, hey, I'm going off the grid. I'm not going to be in the rat race. I'm going to grow my own food. I'm going to live here, and I'm autonomous. To me, I'm not dependent on anything else in the world. The only thing I'm dependent on, hopefully, they'll still have oxygen up there, and they're not going to go and pollute my world so much because they're all living under domes that have clean air, and so therefore they don't care about the air in the rest of the world. We've always had that. The question is whether they've had any say all throughout history. And there's a gentleman, I wish I could remember his name, who I observed speaking in the UN, when the UN was talking about the Chad Lake Basin in Africa and the problem we've got there and the need for the grassroots populations around Lake Chad to do something because Lake Chad is drying up and being polluted. And he pointed out that he's a historian, and he said throughout history, the masses have never accomplished anything. That it's always been, as Joan pointed out, some emperors decided, you know what, tomorrow we're all Christians, and anybody that's not willing to be a good Christian, we're just going to kill them.
I think the masses accomplished the revolution, the French Revolution, when they decided to stop tyranny in France. I mean, they did. Maybe they didn't know, but the effect has been seen.
Did they? Who was the king of France? Just either the next generation or the generation after that, it was the son or grandson. The thing about it is that very often did they stop tyranny, or did they replace one kind of tyranny with another kind of tyranny?
Well, yeah. Well, Well, the thing is that I think the greater point that I was trying to make is that nothing has really changed. We're just using technology now as the mechanism to suppress people.
But are we using technology?
I think that, but yeah, the thing is that, Bill, the thing is that the US and the West are used to being what I call living drones already. They get up in the morning, they go to work. They don't even eat properly. They work for somebody to make a lot of money, and they're scared to death about that person losing their job. And so the rest of the world doesn't have that same, what I call the treadmill or drone mentality. So it's easy for the West to do it and to control people like that because money is their game. And so they've imposed that on the rest of the world. You need money, like GDP, like why is the world assessed by GDP, right? Why isn't it other things like how people are functioning, their knowledge, their wisdom? Because why? You can't make money at it according to them, but they go ahead and steal those people's resources to make themselves rich. It all comes down to money. So somebody is saying that if we give people money, everybody will be happy because when I make money, I'm happy. But that's not everybody. People want fulfilled lives and purposeful lives. But it's no sense arguing with this stuff because it's like you said, it's here, but there's going to be a lot of resistance.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the resistance. We just have to be careful that the resistance doesn't happen in a way that the people who have the power decide to eliminate the resistance by eliminating those people who could resist. In other words, we've got to come up with a path to transition to the best world we could have. We can't just stick our heads in the sand and say, I don't want to know about it. It's terrible. That's not helping us. We've got to really understand, we've got to look, and when we look at these developments that could be taking place, and we say, okay, it's like when we look at a hurricane and we say, what path that might that hurricane take as it evolves and so forth. And we may not be 100% right, but we keep adjusting the path to try to get, but we've got to anticipate, because if we don't, people don't have time to put up sandbags and or get away from the shore or whatever. And we've got to do that in this case here. We've got to be able to inform. We know there's certain things we definitely want from it. We want to get the health care. We want to get the better education. And the ability to expand that education to things like ethics and empathy and the arts and things like this.
And food security.
And food security. Well, food security is very interesting, because the analysis I did, there's the problem is there's no shortage of food in the world. The only thing we've got is a shortage of people able to pay the going price for food. We have countries paying people not to grow food. We've got businesses that buy up and destroy food to
Comes down to
maintain the
money.
prices. To
Comes down to
maintain the
money.
prices. So the issue is that we when we look at all this, as Peter Diamandis says, and I agree with him, there's a real potential that we will go into a world of abundance where nobody should be hungry, because people is not based on labor. For thousands of years, the economy of the world has been based on the idea of labor, human labor.
Yeah.
And when the idea of human labor is eliminated, the question is, we either go into a world where everybody shares in this non-labor based world economy, or everybody who was dependent before on the labor-based economy is going to suffer. And that's where we have the option to create the awareness to say, we got to do this right. We can't go and encourage people to be Luddites and to go out there and pull all the plugs, go out there and destroy all the machines. We saw a couple of 100 years ago what that led to. That didn't result in anything positive for the Luddites. So we've got to go and say, no, how do we make it work for humanity? That's the challenge. And right now, nobody's talking about that. That's what's concerned me. Yes, is it Christina? Christina.
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Cristina. Hi, I'm in Portugal. I'm Brazilian, and I've been listening to the conversation for quite a long time. I've lost a few parts because, the subject is very complex, and I've been doing certain things here at home. I get the webinar got me a little bit by surprise, and I had a few things to do, but I've been trying to follow as much as possible what's being talked about, and it's really overwhelming, some of the issues that you are discussing. And it got me a little emotional about it, actually, But I'm going to try with my bad English to
You're
give
doing great.
try to express a little bit some thoughts. I don't know if it's going to help, but I would like to express some of the ideas that occur to me and see if I'm getting the main issue. What I feel like is that we are going very close now to one of our most challenging technological revolutions in the humankind history. So let's go back to Industrial Revolution. Then you're kind of skipping, and then what happened with the globalization issue some decades ago in the 80s, when people were discussing all the pros and cons of going to a globalized world. A lot of people pushing against it because they could predict, good things, but very bad things about the business becoming globalized and everything. And I'm in my 60s, so I went through all these things. I look younger, but actually I'm not that young. And then we had the internet, right? The introduction of internet in our lives, and it changed our lives completely. So it was another huge revolution. And again, many of the topics that are being discussed here in somehow were discussed before, but in a different context. Now the context is kind of in a way better and worse. In a comparing the context of some other revolutions and decades before, because now we are in the brink of extinction because of the environmental problems, and the population, the demographic explosion brings an even more dark or bleak outcome for us. And at the same time, I feel that what you're saying, that AI could help us so much, to take a step forward and use for our own good, for the good of mankind, and make life for us easier, and make also resolve so many of our environmental issues. It could be so good for everything. Again, we are facing the same dilemma. What humankind are going to do with this kind of tool, this absolutely magic tool they have in their hands? They can play magic with this. But we've seen, unfortunately, that we went through all these revolutions. And even though we were able to perform so many wonders in the world, to improve so much science, health, education, so many things, but still we can see the wars, and we can see people killing each other, and we can see that even though we kind of keep doing these COPs every year and trying to come to environmental agreements, we're still kind of in the brink of extinction. People cannot come to an agreement. So I'm sorry to kind of give you this impression, but I think that for me, I'm kind of a bit more, although I know that this could make a big change, a big game changing here, but I feel more like scared that this is actually going to make things worse.
Yeah.
And it's going to be too fast, and we won't be able to handle it, most people. At the same time, I remember that advertising, the famous advertising of Super Bowl, when Macintosh launched the first personal individual computer. And I don't know if you remember that Super Bowl advert commercial made by Ridley Scott, if I'm not mistaken, was directed by Ridley Scott, that shows that blonde girl coming towards that meeting, that everybody looks like how do you call it, those like in Thriller, those zombies kind of controlled by a big screen, like the George Orwell, a kind of a George Orwell thing that everybody controlled. Then she goes there and she breaks that thing, So at the same time, you're saying that everybody has this power in their hands. So we will have at the same time, we're going to give a huge power to each individual to fight this also. All these problems. So at the end, it's in our hands to decide that. But at the same time, it's difficult to predict what kind of forces are going to play and who is going to be the winner here. If it's going to be for our destruction or for our good,
Okay.
That's the impressions that I had about these conversations.
Yes, no, thank you for your
Thank you.
insights there. You brought up a lot of very interesting points. And bom dia, I spent some time in Portugal here. I spoke once to the International Chamber of Commerce there in Lisbon with your Minister of Economics. And beautiful, beautiful country. But the thing that's going on here, you're 100% right. It's the hands of the humans, and we're all going to get all these devices. But guess what? All these devices function because they're connected to the cloud or whatnot, and you've got a tiny handful of people that control who has access to what. Right now, for example, Orion, ChatGPT 5 or Orion, that's due out the end of November, beginning of September, somewhere in that time frame. Right now, the rumor is that OpenAI just may give it to the well-heeled corporations, and only the people who can pay huge amounts of money are the only ones that are going to get access to the really powerful stuff. The rest of us will get access to low-level stuff. And because in the end of the day, they want to change their whole corporate structure to be for profit, and they want to figure out how to maximize their profit. And so this is a little bit of a risk we face with these technologies, that at the end of the day, it's not whether we can pull the plug. We can't. That but there's a couple of people that might be able to pull the plug, or at least pull the plug of what wires go to whom, to be able to use what. They'll be able to control the access. So the question's going to be, do we have eventually a mechanism in place where there are decisions being made from the perspective of humanity, or does it remain that it's a private enterprise of the maximization of benefits to individuals? That's going to be a tough challenge situation. And the biggest problem we run into all of these things is that, as you pointed out, we can't decide on anything. We can't agree on anything. Pretty much anything in the world you want to bring out, that people, if they don't like your position, it's just lies and fake news, and either side. And we have a huge debate here, alone, whether we have any obligation to help our neighbors, or no, it's everybody for themselves. We're all competitive animals. Just look at the whole animal world, and we're no different. So we should be encouraging a society where the survival of the fittest, and we need to we've been doing an artificial situation for the last number of decades, where we try to protect the weak, where what we should be doing is letting nature follow its course and eliminate the weak. So there's a big debate. That's to me what I see as the crux. When I hear a lot of young people right now talking about the upcoming election in the United States, a lot of it is boiling down to the idea of, hey, we need to get rid of the weak in society, so that it will strengthen those that are best able to survive. So the But the bottom line is here, and I'm going to have to call the meeting to an end here, because I can't believe we're more than 3 hours again. I keep telling my wife, no, don't worry about it. We're not going to take so long this time. But I'll tell you, the group we've got that attends these meetings, you guys are so interesting and bring in so many ideas. It's very hard to stop. But the key things I wanted to accomplish in the meeting here today was to really make aware at the speed. We talk about how fast it's all developing, but that's sort of a generalized statement, right? Now, what I wanted to do is bring us home to look at the actual very specific technologies that are driving the change quickly, in weeks and months, no longer years and decades, weeks and months. And the idea, and Kurt just joined us a little while ago, that in my discussions with artificial and ChatGPT and other artificial intelligences on the speed at which we can expect certain things to happen, that they have very little that goes beyond 2027. By 2027, almost everything here is accomplished, and the AI is in total control. And you can look at those statements, because it actually broke it down almost month by month. This is coming out here. This is coming out here. Well, if I take a look at just these last few weeks, I follow a guy named Matt Wolf, for example, who does a weekly roundup of all the important news of the week. And I think here he hit 30 major announcements for this week. 30 major announcements in 1 week. There's another gentleman, Matt Vid Pro, young guy, who does a similar weekly analysis, and he gave up. He just said, "Look, I can't get it all covered here. The changes just in this week are too much, and yet a lot of people feel, oh, look, stuff is slowing down. It's not happening as fast, but it's happening faster and faster and faster that many people imagine. Yeah, I've been my favorite. Anyway, so I wanted to bring that home and make that real to real things. And so that we can start to look, how do we leverage those to do positive things, including making people, we can use the technology itself to help make people aware of what's going on, and get more people to be thinking about it. And but the biggest challenge is, if we take a look right now at the latest polls out of Germany, which was very climate change oriented up until a couple of years ago. And right now, it looks like the Greens party is going from being in the government, being the fastest growing party 4 years ago, to being going into oblivion. And the polls of young people here in the U.S., especially young males, on universities, the percentage of them that are going ultra conservative, right wing, pro Trump, when you listen to their reasoning, their logic, this is very scary. But so at any rate, be aware. I will be doing my best to do. I probably will try to do here that we'll do a week devoted to education, and a week devoted um, to trying to go and define a mission where we're looking at what are really the meaningful changes that are needed in the world, and saying, how do we do that? In other words, we can't just be talking, saying, look, we got all these problems in the world. We got all these problems in the world, and end there. We got to go and say, yeah, we got all these problems in the world, but then what are we going to do about them? We got to go and say we got to do something about them, and have plans. And the third will be AI. So because the AI, I'm totally dedicated to education since the 1980s, and but I go and I see that child who is maybe in second or third grade, and I say, I don't think high school will exist. I don't think they're going to make it to high school. I literally don't think they're going to make it to high school. I don't think high school as we know it is going to exist. Because if you know everything, if you've got access to every single thing, if a child here, I see children 2, 3 years old, that a device, not this one, but a device maybe is an interactive, that's the key word, screen that is engaging with them, that is telling them stories, that is asking them to create stories, that is asking them to be curious about stuff, that is asking them what makes sense about stuff. So that every single child, we talk about affirmative action. The Supreme Court in the United States killed affirmative action for going into universities, but that didn't work anyway. But what we really need is, if you really believe in affirmative action, it has to happen before fifth grade. Every single child going into fifth grade, if they were all equal at that point, we would not need affirmative action, because so the affirmative action has to be devoted to everybody going into fifth grade equally prepared to be successful in whatever. But I look at that and I say, okay, AI is going to make that possible, but is AI going to make that irrelevant? So we've got to, a lot of people complain that I spend too much time looking at AI, but I say, I look at world hunger. AI is either going to kill us, or we're going to solve world hunger with AI much faster than we're going to do anything about food security elsewise. And we can look at every problem in the world. Oh, there's one other area we need to focus on, and that is the idea that AI, because of the impact it's going to have on the developed world, is going to literally kill the developing world. Literally kill all those villages out there, all those subsistence farmers. They are going to be denigrated to the level of animals. They're not going to be considered to be part of the human species anymore. And I can show you the path where I lay out exactly how that's going to happen. Because of the fact that the gap is going to be so great, they're not going to be seen anymore, and nobody's going to care. Because if the global economy ends, there is no globalism. Everything is local, and everybody has everything they want local, and nobody has any excess because everybody only has what they need to survive. Then there is no global solidarity, if you would, and it's going to be a. They're not going to. It's not like they're going to be killed off by the people on the top, but the issue is they're just not going to be cared about anymore, and so that's got to be so four areas that I'm thinking here we need to be talking about, but. Again, Joan, let me let you have the last word, and then we will uh, bring this meeting to an end.
Sure. Well, it won't take long. First of all, we have to have a meeting for Monday, before Monday.
Oh yeah, no. I actually
Yeah.
I told Lasinka I have most of what
Yeah.
we talked about last week written up. We had a death, a close death here, and some
Okay.
things that delayed
Just
things.
want to say that quickly. So your last comment about people, subsistent farmers and stuff be irrelevant. Well, in the great world right now, they're irrelevant anyway, so nothing will change.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how technology is going to solve some of the problems that religion never could, because the three great religion, Hinduism is not a religion, as people know. Thou shalt not kill doesn't come into play, which is one of the Ten Commandments. It doesn't have any exception or qualifiers. If this happens or this happens, it says thou shalt not kill. So it'll be interesting to see how technology will solve some of these problems. And the whole idea of people, every time you talk, I think about, and I know it's not you, you're trying to present what's happening. So when I use the word you, it's a universal you, maybe, that it's eugenics all over again. The survival of the fittest, like who makes a decision about who is good, who's bad, who's healthy, who's not. A lot of that depends on what somebody has access to their food and nutrition and way of life. What is health as well? Mental health, physical health. Like, if you go to, and I've done it because I have a wide range of rich friends and poor friends, because I make no distinction between people, and somehow I'm able to interact with both very easily. By the way, my grandfather was a Maharaj, just so you know. So I'm used to that sort of thing. But the thing is that when you have a group of people who want to be superior and have power, nothing is going to change with this technology. It's only going to make it worse. And so when people are desperate, that's where the terrorism grows. That when they're hungry, when the fingers put on them, when they're seeing their life being taken away by powers that be, like, and then they're supported by the world. Like, where do we draw the line of what is inhumane and what's not? Does technology do that?
Well, when we get in and we talk about survival of the fittest, the most easiest thing on that is, guess what? The ones who survived were the fittest. And
But
so
those
that,
were natural things that happen. These are not powers that be that has drone that go in and kill people. On which I'm not taking sides. I'm saying essentially, like, or coming to steal people's lands and say, yes, we'll make your
yeah,
life better, but they're actually making it worse. Like,
yeah,
survival of the fittest means in nature,
yeah, but you're right.
natural
But the thing about
process.
it is in nature here, because I actually had that discussion with ChatGPT as well about here on the survival of the fittest. What the conflict aspects of animals and things like this. And it's interesting. It went back to single cell amoebas and all the different animal levels, and even the plants, how plants compete, showing it, how the plants compete. Even I didn't know they compete at the roots, among their roots as well. But it went into all of that detail, and it pointed out that there are animals that will fight for territory even if they don't need it. In other words, that in nature, I mean, in the end of the day, the humans are nothing more than another animal, and it goes through and it showed how the different animals and why we should not expect, this thinking that some people have. Humans are different. Humans, we have all these moral codes and things like this. But at the end of the day, when we get down to that survival of the fittest, when hard comes to hard, very often it literally does get into that aspect of it. Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna because Kurt hasn't said anything yet today. I'll let Kurt say a few words, and then we will call this end because uh, uh
I would challenge everybody to be able to read Tamsin Woolley Barker's book called Teeming, Teeming. She's how would you call it? Anthrobiologist, uh, a very fascinating person that allows us to understand also this idea this competition is totally innate and everything everybody competes and everything competes. What about ants? Do ants compete?
yeah, no, and it did ChatGPT mention there were some exceptions, but very, very few. I think bees.
And going
But
beyond
no,
that,
but wait a minute.
when
But
you
ant
think
ant
about it,
colonies compete. Definitely, ant colonies compete.
there's the aspect also this that the ones that collaborate more with others are the ones that are more successful too. They're the ones that are the most long lasting. And when we decide to, because we look at life in a way for thriving rather than just surviving, we then approach life in a way that says, let's do this for the benefit of all, because we all can benefit and all our relations will be happy. Because what will this accomplish? It will accomplish all the good air, all the good water, and so on and so forth. When we look at life in a holistic way, rather than in the tunnel vision of the past, it's like Bucky Fuller's idea creating this new paradigm. We get to be able to create a new paradigm by seeking that which we feel is best for all.
And Kurt, if we can sell that idea, that's the whole idea. We have got to get the world to agree to that because right now it's going in the opposite direction, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure out how to turn that around. Okay, I said Kurt was going to have the last word, but Amos has his hand up and Amos hasn't said anything either. So Amos, very short, please. Amos,
Hello.
yes.
Yes. Permit me to first of all thank you for all the presentations. Have been awesome and wonderful.
Bill, I have an emergency.
Yes, okay, Paula. I will be contacting you later because I have for the project, the Close the Gap project. I'll send you that separately.
Yeah. Can I go on?
Yes, you're on.
Hello?
Amos. You're
Yeah.
on, Amos.
I have strongly feel technology is taking the world very fast. And just as you have pointed out, many people have been left behind. They're not aware. I think a group like this will do the world great service by simplifying technology terminology, usage, and deployment. If we can concentrate our effort in teaching the common man outside there, in the grassroots, how AI could be deployed in agriculture, smart agriculture, in education, in trading, commerce, I believe it will benefit the world so much. Because as we speak, a lot of people are left behind. They are not aware. And we cannot afford to keep derailing or keeping the world aside. I once pointed out at the UN headquarters in New York to the chair of the Science and Technology technology unit. I told her, I said, one of the problems we have is that we have mystified science and technology and innovation. We have not really breaking it down to the level that the common man can understand, to know that planting yam differently, making energy from waste and deploying it along with technology. It's innovation. So I am suggesting that we can do a great service to the world that is wasting. The world is poverty increasing, unemployment, food scarcity. How can this technology be deployed by the common man? If we concentrate effort on this, I think it will help our world. So that's just my little suggestion at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Amos. I know, I agree. Although at the end of the day, as I say, there are people out there that are using artificial intelligence to figure out how to destroy food to keep the prices high. In other words, there's people out there that say as long as there's nobody starving, there's the price of food will stay high. And that's more important for them to have their profits high than it is for people to live and not starve. And as long as that's the situation, it's going to be we've got to deal with that situation of humanity in order to bring about the kind of change that we really need. So I'd
So we
like to
get
thank.
in peace. We get
Yes,
to say goodbye, good night, and
I'd like to
salute.
thank you so much, Kurt.
Salute.
I thank you everyone here and sticking with it to the end. The comments were so great, and I will really do my best to get the recording out this time here. I keep thinking I want to take the recording and put it into an AI tool to have it somehow shorten it down to like 45 minutes or an hour. Thank you.
You must have an
Thank you, Bill.
AI
Thank
note
you.
taker.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a note taker.
Papa. Hi,
Bye.
Paula.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.